You're so special. You're so fucking special. But I'm okay.
$1 million in tax revenue per month. They talked about how many jobs we've created. They talked about how there's this economic boom in all the legalization states. To me, as a marijuana consumer for the past 20, 21, 26 years, the number one thing to me about Oregon legalizing marijuana is the price crashes. How much you folks spending here, allegedly, hypothetically, for a half ounce of top shelf cannabis? How much? Yeah, a lot of money, right? Boston, pretty spending, trying to buy yourself top shelf. The other day I went and bought Durban Poison, 23.12% THC, half ounce, $75 for a half ounce. $75 for a half ounce of the best quality, top of the world cannabis you can buy. $75, and that was with the taxes. That's with taxes included. So not only did I get
large part of my district is Quincy, and then after that it's Abington, Holbrook, Rockland, and those other areas. That's boring, but if anyone's from those areas, keep an eye out. But to be honest, it's even more important than my district. If you're from Massachusetts, it's important to everyone, because even if question 4 passes and you do a great job and win by a landslide, that still means 40 people in the state Senate still oppose cannabis, which is a disproportionate ratio to what the people want. So what I want to do is help bring this part of the culture, because we're normal people, up to the State House, just do the regular thing. I'm being bored right now, sorry about that, but I'm gonna go around, walk around, shake everyone's hand. I got cards, got info. Visit the website, mendezforsenate.com, Mendez with a Z, so check it out. Sorry for being uninspiring, but what's happening? See, look at it, fucking just roll with it. But no, I feel like I should, that's the joke, my campaign's the joke. I should just start saying other funny shit, right? No? Yeah, see, this guy feels, he's like, fucking say anything. Anything, yeah. Do I have anyone's attention? Raise your hand if you can hear me. Yeah! Are we a part? What about you girls back there? Point to them, say vote. You guys gonna vote? Fuck yeah, right? Whatever. How about over there? You guys hear us over there? Alright, so I'm actually talking to people now, right? People are paying attention. Alright, they're gonna drop a beat. Fuck it. If you guys got an extra guitar, I'll jam. Let's fucking do this. I'm not kidding though. But that's it. Mendez for Senate. Visit. Sign up to volunteer if you just want to pass out flyers. Fucking take some political action. Everyone's talking, doing nothing. So far, I've walked over 325 miles. That's Massachusetts from Boston to New York, not city. New York State, Western Mass, and all the way back. I've done that a couple times, and how much footwork I've done. So fucking, if you want to join the fight, do the same, all right? So Mendez for Senate, tell your friends, this guy. These aren't even my friends, but you got one.
So when you grow synthetically, or even when you grow with any sort of chemical nutrient line, it doesn't really matter if it's necessarily synthetic or organic. When it's a chemical or when it's a liquid nutrient that has to get delivered through a solution, there's going to be like chelating agents, and there's going to be things in there to help the plant absorb it.
My name is Rob. I've been a cannabis grower for about 12 years now. I've been in the medical program for about 8. Growing to me started as kind of just a passion for plants. If you're a person who's passionate about any plant, you can be passionate about cannabis. And more than any other plant, this plant helps people be well, live a better life, and feel better about themselves. So, I mean, a lot of people are getting into it for, other purposes, but that's all right. Everyone sees the light at some point, what it can do for you. I would tell people to approach growing as like just be passionate about it, treat it like a hobby, but a serious hobby. And then if that works out for you, then you can take it further. Above all, important is actually caring about the plant and actually looking for its needs. Kind of like you were taking care of a dog or a child. Every inch of energy that you put into it comes out of it at the end. So, you know, whatever energy you put in is reflective of what comes out. A lot of people just try to go for the biggest bang, the biggest buds, and you're going to be disappointed at the end if that's how you treat your growing. I emphasize organic growing techniques because it's better for the consumer of the product. It's better for you as growing it. You're exposed to less chemicals and you're doing a favor to the environment. Getting started growing can be easy as starting 1-2 plants, or just go for your allotted amount that you're allowed on a card. Looking forward to legalization. It's going to be much more normalized, and it's going to hit this coast soon, where anybody could just grow a couple plants in their backyard. It's a beautiful thing. Nobody should be ashamed of it, and it's something that sparks a lot of people's interests. I work at a grow store, and I see every day older folks, people who have never even seen a cannabis plant before, just buying a setup and getting started, and it's as easy as that. And yeah. Marijuana might not be addictive, but growing certainly is. As soon as those plants leave your life for any amount of time, you just want to get right back at it. One of the hardest things to do as a grower is if you have a situation where you can't grow anymore, and all you want to do is get back and grow some plants. Growing is the reason why this whole thing has kept going. If no one grew the plants, then none of this would be here. So I emphasize people get out there, support your local growers especially. We're being faced with a big legalization trend right now, which is having all the big companies swoop in and try to take us away from us, considering Philip Morris, Monsanto, all those companies are going to try to come in and take our rights away to grow. So it's very important every election season that we protect our rights to grow. This is our right to grow our own medicine, how we want to treat ourselves. And it's a fun family activity. A lot of families that I know who grow together have a better relationship with each other. It's something that the family can, share over. Hey, what do we got to do tonight? Oh, we're gonna take care of the plants, and then we're gonna watch a movie. Or, oh, we're gonna, help out our neighbors with this stuff. A lot of neighborhoods, like I live in Rhode Island. I gotta tell you what, half of the people on my street are medical cannabis patients. You know what happens when they run out or something bad happens in their garden? They come knocking next door and say, hey man, my plants aren't working out so good. Could you donate a little medicine? And you know what? If you do that, sometimes it doesn't come back to you, but most of the times it does. When you hit in a bad spot and, maybe your neighbor has a little bit to offer. There's whole communities starting over this, and we're starting a lot of big communities here. Where we go from here with that is all up to us. So while you're growing that cannabis, while you're being passionate in your plant, remember that it's about community. It's not about hoarding anything or trying to just benefit yourself. We're trying to build a real community here, and that means taking care of each other while you're taking care of your plants. So anybody, get out there, get growing. If you're already growing now, just keep on doing the good work for us. That's all about I have to say today. Love everybody. Thanks for coming out here, and happy Freedom Rally.
And first up, we have Stephen Mandley. He is a U.S. Army National Guard, and he's pretty active here in the Massachusetts scene. Stephen?
Hi, thank you for coming out. My name is Stephen Mandilli. I am the president and founder of Veterans Alternative Healing Incorporated. And what we focus on is getting the cannabis culture together with the veteran community and get them joined in, because I feel like we understand the same things of taking care of people and being there for everyone that needs help, and not just special people, just everybody. So we're trying to get the view on cannabis to be better than the view on just doing what your doctor tells you, taking the medicine your doctor's telling you to do, because that leads down to a road of just wanting to die and actual death. So much to the point, it's an epidemic in America right now. It's a huge epidemic in Massachusetts. So we like to take veterans and get them out, get them to the referrals, talking to other like-minded veterans so they feel more comfortable in making their own choice, even if it's not a choice that's not popular, and it's still just as much a stigma on cannabis as opioids, which makes no sense to me. So we like to get the veterans together, and at the same time we do like to go to the State House and represent veterans and cannabis there, and represent the cannabis community. Let them know that, you know, you didn't know me for 10 years because I didn't leave my house. I was on medicine that I just wanted to be in my room. I would not take a shower for weeks at a time. I would not even leave my house or yard for weeks at a time. And this isn't, it's real. It's all of us up here to prove it. So yeah, just try to be as active as you can. Don't say there's nothing you can't do. Give it a shot and see what happens.
Hi, my name is Mike Whiter. I am a former United States Marine. I was in the Marine Corps for 11 years. I'm from Philadelphia. I run Pennsylvania Veterans for Medical Marijuana, and I also am a photographer, and I started a photo project called Operation Overmed, which it depicted veterans who were addicted to pills just like I was. I was on 40 different pills over a period of 5 years, all prescribed by the VA, opiates, benzos, antidepressants, you name it, I was on it, and as most of these vets up here probably were too. And we've all decided to start using cannabis to take our lives and our health care into our own hands, because the VA isn't doing the right thing by vets. So Operation Overmed was a photo essay that depicted veterans who were addicted to pills and started using cannabis instead, and decided to throw the pills away. And you know, now we have saved our own lives, and now we're fighting for other vets across the country to do the same thing. And that photo essay actually gained a lot of traction and made a lot of vets reach out and talk about this, and it started a conversation. So that's what we need to do here, is start a conversation about veterans and cannabis, because it's still a stigmatized thing. And you know, the VA's go-to is always going to be the moneymaker, which is Big Pharma. And you know, we need to change that. The VA needs to start recommending cannabis for patients, and that's why we need to reschedule or deschedule, and you know, just get rid of all this crap around cannabis and just start doing it, you know? So thanks a lot for coming, and see you soon.
Hi, I'm Neek Pichette. I was in the United States Marine Corps during Desert Storm. I did not leave stateside. I do not have combat experience, but I did experience the Corps. When I was in the Corps, I developed a significant eating disorder and exercise addiction that, being on a base with a ratio of 10 to 1, 10 men to 1 women, I used it by working out tremendously, and in turn ended up fighting bulimia and anorexia for most of my life. I was hospitalized at the VA. I do have to say that there were some positives out of it, because they helped me gain a sense of remission, but I also came out of the VA very highly medicated. After that journey, that was around 2004, 2005, and 2011 was diagnosed with breast cancer for the first time. I opted for a mastectomy. There was no traditional medication. I was allergic to tamoxifen, which is a hormone which caused me to feel suicidal. So I opted not to take the tamoxifen, and I had a 4% chance that my cancer was going to come back, in which it did in 18 months. 2013, I was re-diagnosed, and I started my battle with breast cancer again, this time with chemotherapy, radiation, and I was allergic to all the antiemetics, the nausea medications, and some of the traditional meds for the side effects of my chemotherapy. And that's when I had started a blog on Facebook, and people started dropping on my page all this information about cannabis, in which I was afraid to start because my profession, I'm a nurse, and at the time I was a director of nursing. But illness has a way of making you look at things a lot differently, and that's how I got into the world of cannabis. So as a veteran, as a nurse, as a two-time breast cancer survivor, I'm off all traditional medication, and all I use right now is cannabis. I've been in remission right now for 34 months, and my only fear is, again on Friday, I was denied employment because my test came back positive for THC. So this is another struggle that I'm going to be going out there to try to help other nurses and veterans that are using cannabis as medicine, that if we are in the Department of Health, Massachusetts regulated program, why cannot we work, yet my coworker can be using opiates at the nurse's station, and that's okay. Thank you.
Hi everybody, good afternoon, and thank you all for being here, and I truly am honored because this is a year that you guys are all going to make a difference. We're making a difference this year. I want you guys to understand the importance. Listening to Monique's story, Mike and Steve's, I am a physician, I'm a primary care physician, I'm an occupational medicine physician, and I'm proud to say I'm a cannabis therapeutic specialist, and I can honestly say my name is not attached to any opioids for at least 8 years. And I don't take insurance. I don't work for a university. I don't work for a hospital. I don't get Medicare dollars. The only people that I get paid from is my patients. And I love what I do. And I came here 2 years ago, and I was not able to say, I would say, oh, I'm a family doc, Ahmed. That's how I approach cannabis. And you talk about stigma. Now, I proudly say I'm a cannabis therapeutic specialist, and I'm a family doc in Ahmed, and my medicine that I recommend kills nobody. Nobody dies from my medicine that I give my patients. I was one of those doctors that wrote those prescriptions. I was a patient that received these medications. And I am proud to say cannabis is not an entrance drug. It is an exit drug from pharmaceuticals and narcotics. And each one of these people have talked about this. We should say it's not for everybody. I also say that. Cannabis is not for everybody, but it should be a first-line option, not the last resort. And 3 factoids that we'll talk about today, but we're talking about it, and I'm so proud for each of you guys to be here. Thank you very much. And make sure you register to vote and get your vote out there.
Hi, my name's Ellen Brown, and I'm an Air Force veteran. I am the founder of Sensimia Seminars, and I also work with the New England Veterans Alliance. What I hope to do is to educate, to empower everyone to be their own best advocate. I think it's so important that our veterans know that there is an alternative to opioids, and that's cannabis. I did not deploy, but a lot of my friends did, and when they came home, they were absolutely being overprescribed, and I was the one who had to sit them down and let them know that cannabis was an option. And who am I? I need Dr. Uma. We need doctors. We need to get cannabis back in the U.S. pharmacopoeia, and the way we're going to do that is by empowering each other and making sure that we educate each other so that we can work as a force, because the VA needs to hear us, the Department of Public Health needs to hear us, the United States needs to hear us, that these are changes that needs to happen because it's going to benefit the lives of our veterans.
Hi, my name's Kyle Correo. I served in Iraq in 2003 with 2nd Cav, U.S. Army. Got out in 2004. A couple of years ago, I got really sick of all the medication the VA was trying to stuff down my throat, so I moved to California. I've been growing and making hash out there for 2 years. I just cut down my 2nd season. I make hash for shops. I also own a large rosin press, so I've been crushing rosin. A lot of my hash I sell as cheap as I can for people with edibles and stuff. And I mean, I gave a speech yesterday, and I love what's happening with the laws here, and some things that we can do to encourage, positive, moving forward in that. Break the law. If you have somebody that's sick, has cancer, epilepsy, kids, don't make any concessions, for the law. Break the law. If it's going to save somebody's life, just do it. And the VA, the endless dealings with the VA for veterans, it just needs to stop. Like, people that even vaguely ask for cannabis or a recommendation needs to just get it. When the floodgates open and the feds legalize in a couple of years, like, people that are doing small grows and taking care of their stuff, like Paul Brennan that was speaking earlier, Rob over here, we're all going to be, it's going to be phased out by Walmart. We're going to be getting paid $10 an hour to do labors that took us 15 years to figure out. It's just mass bureaucracy at its finest. I really love what's happening here with the laws, and just, as nice as the police have been the past couple of years, like thanks to Chris Foy and a couple others at MassCann, we got a lot to be thankful for here in Massachusetts. Really do. Thank you very much.
So again, I just want to thank everybody, for sitting here today. And what we're going to discuss are very, current events. This is a climate that's changing every day. And again, my name is Chris Foy. I've been involved with MassCann directly since 2008. When I got out of the military, active duty Army, I was an engineer. I served in a year in Korea, and then I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, where I was attached to a support company for Third ID, and we did ordnance and engineering work along the Iraqi border for a year as well. And I got really lucky in my time there as far as what we saw and what we had to deal with, and luckier than some of my fellow soldiers in future deployments with the same company, and I count my blessings for that. And I also count my blessings that I had a base knowledge of opiates and what they can do to you before I encountered the VA. And when I started my dealings with the VA, they were prescribing me medicines that I already knew I didn't want, and I challenged them in a way that I knew I didn't want these medicines, so I was requesting right off the bat something else, and they didn't really know how to address that. It was kind of just like, well, no, this is what you need to do. And I remember thinking, how soldiers and service members are so, ingrained to do what you're told, follow orders and whatnot, that, it got me thinking of how many, service members are just doing exactly what they're told, but being given the wrong information and not being allowed to have information that's coming out now regarding cannabis and their alternatives that they just aren't exposed to. And so getting to put together things like these, I hope that other veterans will get the message that there are alternatives to what the VA is, their current status quo is. And that's a huge hurdle to get over, is just making sure guys have access to the right information. And so one of the things I'm going to ask, we're going to work our way around. Steve, my first question is for you, because we've gotten to work together a little bit, and the work you're doing in Massachusetts is great. But how, what do you think is the biggest stigma or hurdle to go over when you're dealing with your veterans that and then they're coming to you asking you questions like, what is the main reoccurring fear of why they don't want to pursue alternative medicine?
It all comes down from the knowledge and the law. No one wants to break the law, but when I start giving out the facts of how many people are dying on what they're taking compared to how many people are dying what I'm taking, they open their eyes, and then they realize that everything they've been told isn't really based on many facts. The fact that you go to the VA, you sign your treatment plan that they give you, and they're giving you drugs when you tell them that you don't think good all the time and you are always thinking about suicide, and they'll give you drugs with those side effects. They'll give you medications that aren't going to help you. You go there and you say you don't really think it works, so they up your dose a little more, and it keeps happening. I was there 2 weeks ago to get an x-ray on my neck, and before I even got my x-ray, they're like, oh, well, we'll either have to do surgery or you can take some pills. And I was like, what? You know, I'm not going back on fentanyl. I'm all set. So it's just that type of, there's no knowledge that there actually is something else you can take. And like Kyle was saying, yeah, it's illegal, but who cares? You're going to let someone tell you what to do every day. You're going to let someone, you know, prepare your medicine for you, because that's what they're doing essentially by feeding you all the non-facts.
Yeah, I was dealing with the same thing. You know, you're saying is, and reiterating what Kyle was saying is, these guys need the medicine now, and they're almost more inclined to stay in a black market area and dealings, and because they don't want to get involved with a directory and a state, you know, registration, and that's in itself is scary. When you're dealing with things like out west, where the one of the Supreme Courts out there just supported non-gun rights for cannabis veterans. You know, that's another thing in veterans' minds that they don't want to be subjected to, is having their license to carry called into effect. And when you have Supreme Courts supporting that type of rhetoric, you know, it's a scary thing to get involved in. Mike, what do you think is the biggest hurdles that you've had to deal with in your helping vets and consulting with veterans?
In Pennsylvania, as we know, cannabis is still illegal. That's the biggest hurdle that I've had. Vets are pretty. They're pretty prone to not wanting to break the law and not wanting to break rules. And we followed the rules, you know, the whole time we were in the military, and then we did what we were told to do. And you know, don't break the law. Don't break the law. Don't do anything wrong. And you know, so we didn't. And now we get out here, and you know, we have to break the law in order to medicate ourselves, or we're gonna be zombies. And I personally have zero problem breaking the law. You know, the way I look at it, I broke the law the whole fucking time I was in the military. So, yeah, there's that. And so vets are afraid to break the law. They're afraid to come out of the cannabis closet and say, hey, you know, I smoke weed. They're afraid to be public about it. The vets up here are obviously not afraid to be public about it. But getting other vets on board that's the hardest part, is breaking that stigma and helping them realize that, hey, it's either you save your life illegally or you die by their hand. So that's the biggest hurdle, I think.
I mean, the statistics are staggering when you're considering the over-medicating of veterans and the accessibility of the meds, and then you put them in correlation with the suicide rate and the overdose rate. And you know, it's a real sad situation that a lot of these vets, you know, that are passing away and dying every day, they might not have been in that situation or that dire straits if they had just known that there was alternatives out there. And Dr. Uma, I wanted to ask you, you know, in your line of work, and what type of stigmas do people and reservations do people come with you, and how do you combat those?
I'm laughing because most doctors like their paycheck, okay? So when you are in a system like we are, right, most of the patients are not even able to talk to their doctors about this, you know? There's 3 sets of options that they have. They go to their doctors and they mention this, and they're even thrown out of their practice. Like, we're not even talking about this. Pain clinics, they're given their last prescription and tossed out. That's one option. There's few doctors that totally ignore them and say, you know, if it's working for you, I'm not going to write that prescription because I can't. And that's the third option, is that they actually get involved in it. And so what's happening now is that I am in Massachusetts, and I am a member of the Mass Medical Society, and the Massachusetts Medical Society has clearly made it that we don't accept medical marijuana, and we clearly don't support this whole vote. And they're blatantly saying this. So here I am. I'm not white. I'm not a veteran. I'm not a guy with a Jersey attitude, right? That just flows right along with my mentors here. So you talk about stigma, but we are changing it. We are. We're educating, we're embracing, and we're empowering folks. And that's happening because our patients now are saying, I have a choice. I have a choice whether I want to take this pill or not. And the problem that we have right now is that most people are stuck to get into their disability. In order to maintain their disability, they keep getting their prescription pills filled. So what's happening, this is my theory, is that a lot of these doctors keep writing the pills because that's what we're supposed to do. If one pill doesn't work, up it. If that doesn't work, give another pill. If you have a side effect for that. So it's a wheel that's turning, but ultimately I think the stigma is slowly changing. And if you guys are seeing the papers today, we're starting to talk about this. And it's happening. So educate.
I think education is definitely the biggest, push in the veteran and all patient communities, is because once you have the knowledge that there is an alternative out there, and you just put them right in line together, pills versus cannabis, side effects versus almost no side effects. It's almost like it's aggravating to me. Me personally, I find it. All I ask is of my doctor, honestly, all I would expect of them is to treat cannabis like they treat any other pill. And I'm sure all of you have been there where you're sitting there with your doctor and they're like, all right, we're gonna try this, see how it feels, for 2 weeks, and we'll adjust the dosages, we'll see how you feel, if we gotta give you a little more, if we gotta take you down a little. It's like they're selling you a used car. And it's, I was like, why if they even took half that approach to just including cannabis in the discussion, it's like, all right, here you go. Try this edible, try this, non-solvent, try this vaporizer. We're going to give you 2 weeks on it, and we're going to see how you like it. If not, we'll adjust your levels. But it's just like, no. And at the very least, they could just add it into the discussion where, it's a viable alternative and just let people, try them.
Well, we can't right now. This is what I'm really trying people to understand. We need to deschedule, folks, and I want to make it very, very clear. Deschedule, not reschedule. We have 5 schedules, okay? Cannabis is in Schedule 1, along with heroin, LSD, and ecstasy. Okay, unacceptable. And the reason it's in Schedule 1, and this is where it comes about money. As long as it's in Schedule 1, federal grant money will not be afforded, and hospitals and paychecks come from there. Schedule 1 means that there's no medical use, that there's no medical research in the United States, and the potential for abuse. Okay? So, potential for abuse can happen with anything. No medical research in the United States, lie. The U.S. government has the patent for this and has had the patent since 2003 as an antioxidant neuroprotectant. Medical use, we know it. It was used in this country, folks. It was in the pharmacopoeia. And doctors actually wrote a prescription from 1850 to 1942. So I want the truth to be told. Again, we just want the truth, and let people make their decisions and let people make their choices.
Nick, I got a question, kind of along the same lines with Uma, but in your field of work, it's just a stone wall you're dealing with as far as any type of internal discussions with cannabis and how they're even including it in the discussion. Like, are you it's just no go on those ends of things?
Right now, as a nurse, and I have my master's degree in nursing leadership, so I'm up against it in a lot of different ways because my background is geriatric and psychiatric nursing. So as I get into the nursing home and I apply for these positions, one facility didn't drug test, so I was able to work there. But with the patient ratios, I decided to leave. So I tried another nursing home, and I did not tell them I was a medical marijuana patient. I did the drink, I did all these things so that way I wouldn't pop positive on my urine test. I figured I was all set, and the results came back positive for THC. They questioned me and asked me why I didn't tell them, and I said, this is why I didn't tell you. And they said, well, you're a breast cancer survivor, you should have told us. And I said, this is why I didn't tell you. And they said, thank you for applying, but you cannot work here. Just recently, I applied for a psychiatric hospital in Massachusetts. I've been a nurse for 21 years, by the way, too. And I was honest with them. My resume speaks of I created a cannabis nurse navigator position. I'm working with educating all levels of nurses, from CNAs, LPNs, RNs. And so my resume speaks to it. I teach at Northeastern Institute of Cannabis. It's all over my resume. So of course, when I went into my interview, the director of nursing asked what I did with cannabis and asked if I used cannabis. So since the first time I didn't tell them and was denied, I thought this was my chance to be honest. So I told them that I was a cannabis patient and that I'm still in remission. The facility itself was okay with it. They had never had somebody that was honest about being in the program. They kind of guided me through the process. They knew that I was legally in the program. They said, go do your drug test. When it comes back, we'll submit your medical card and you'll be all set because you're in a program from the Department of Health. I said, okay. The test results came back. Corporate office is in Tennessee. I received a phone call from a doctor from the medical lab. He asked me if I was in a study to use cannabis. Well, the federal government runs studies. How could I be in a study? So I sent him my medical card, told him I was a 2-time breast cancer survivor. The director of HR called me on Friday and said, Monique, I'm very sorry, but you cannot work here. So for veterans and for nurses, it's very difficult because I know when I was working, I first became a patient in Rhode Island and I was working at a dispensary doing outreach. And when I contacted the Rhode Island VA, I asked them, because it was a medically legal state, and they told me that because they were a federal entity, that they could not talk to patients, they could not talk to veterans about it, but if the veterans asked them about it, then it was something that they could discuss, they could not recommend, but if they were a patient in a program, the VA could not deny them benefits, could not remove them from a detox program, an addiction program, or any medical program in the system. But again, I was also supposed to be protected with my medical card and a nursing job. So this is where the fear comes from. Trying to find employment, trying to find health care, trying to stay on your benefits. There's a lot of vets that have come back that are in these medical situations that have disability, and some of them are 100% disabled, and they are in fear that, okay, if I don't take your medications, I'm going to lose my benefits, and then what am I going to do? So it's, I finally came out of the closet. My family thinks I'm crazy. My coworkers think I'm crazy. I'm probably going to end up working at Dunkin' Donuts for a while, but I am not going to change who I am and what I do because it has saved my life. And when the federal government, whoever it is that the person it is that's making these calls, when they themselves or their loved one is diagnosed with a life-threatening or debilitating illness and they have exhausted all their resources of traditional medications, I want to know if they would not come over to the side of cannabis, because that's what brought me here.
That's one of the main things I've dealt with and my buddies, and when they ask me questions, and kind of being on this, platform with the rally, my guys see what I'm doing online, and they're interested. They ask questions pointing them in the right direction, and kind of educating guys that I got to serve with personally is probably one of the most rewarding parts of doing what I do, because they're genuinely interested and they genuinely want to know what the information that they are not being told. Like, some of these guys are from places like Arizona and further down south, where the laws are less progressive, and it's like night and day in our situation to their situation. And it really needs to be addressed at a federal level for specifically, situations like this. Veterans, Neek was touching on it with their 100%, they're 90% disabled, and that means 100%, 90% of most of their welfare, and their money, and what the benefits that they earn comes from the federal government. So they're not going to go and put themselves in a situation where that federal money might be taken from the feds because they're breaking federal laws, whether or not it's legal in their state or not. And guys are terrified of that. They have families to take care of, and they have houses to maintain, and they'll take it on the chin as far as, all right, I'll stick it out with the VA because it's, for the better of my family, whereas, they can take care of both. They can take care of their family and their mental well-being. Ellen, you're pretty well known around Boston. Have you had an opportunity to deal with that, where you get to educate people that you served with, and has any of your people asked you questions and tried to pursue further information?
A lot of my friends, what happens when you're in the military is you make friends all over the world. We're all stationed in different places, but we do keep track of each other, especially on social media. And when they see what it is I'm up to, they have questions. And that's my favorite thing, is taking questions. And they want to know about the endocannabinoid system. They want to know about the medicine they're being prescribed, and how can I get off of it, and what kind of cannabis should I use, and what's the difference between solvent and solventless, what's an indica, what's a sativa. So I think it's really important, especially because there's such a lack of knowledge at the VA. There's such a lack of knowledge by and large in the medical field, that we need to always be educating ourselves, so that if we educate ourselves, reach one, teach 10. And I think that's so important, because my students go off to different states, or they have family members, and then they'll come to me and they tell me how the education I gave them benefited somebody I didn't even know. And it's wonderful where paying it forward, you see it pay off down the line, because somebody says to you, I slept for the first time, I was able to get off my medication. A lot of veterans do struggle with PTSD, and they don't know where to go, and they don't know what to do with cannabis, and they are worried about those stigmas. And Monique and Dr. Uma, being in the medical field, putting their license online, putting their reputation online, that's so commendable, because we need more of that. All of the doctors should be standing up. All of us need to be standing up. We each need to be having these conversations with our primary care providers. And the best way you can do that is to educate yourself about your endocannabinoid system, what medicine would be good for you, why cannabis is in fact one of the best alternatives to anything. And cannabis is also great preventative medicine. So that's why it's so important that we think about things like legalization, voting yes on 4, so that way I don't have to go to my doctor and get a recommendation and deal with the scrutiny. And in Massachusetts, I want that mandatory registration abolished. I will not stop until it is, and I want every single one of you to help me. This is egregious. It is a HIPAA violation. It is a human rights violation, and I am so angry at how our patients are being treated like criminals, and I have contacted the Department of Public Health. That is your complaint department. You want to know who's making the rules? That is your complaint department. Complain to the DEA. Get a hold of your state representatives. Let them know how you feel. The more of us that reach out, the more they're gonna go, oh wow, I heard that mandatory registration, nobody wants that, nobody wants that. This seems to be a big pushback on this issue. Why is it? The more we speak up, the more they hear us. There's strength in numbers. That's why it's important for you. Dr. Uma holds a support group once a month, and that's so important because you're able to go and talk with other patients. I hold free classes for veterans. Wherever you can go where you can get reputable information, take that information on and then think about where could I use this, where could I impart it to others, because I love seeing my veterans come back to me and saying, hey, this helped me with my condition and I was able to get away from pharmaceuticals. It's so gratifying, and you guys will all be able to do that by reaching out and taking care of each other, because the federal government is not going to do it for you.
Kyle, oh, you want to, yeah.
I just want to add to something that Ellen mentioned, and that was HIPAA. And I think that all of us understand HIPAA and the confidentiality that we're supposed to be protected by as patients. So my biggest defense for that doctor asking me for my paperwork from a doctor to show that I was in a study for breast cancer for my cannabis use, when there is not one nurse I have ever worked with that has asked why he or she was on opiates, or why he or she was on benzos, and why he or she is still allowed to work on probation even though they have a record of diverting narcotics and using on the job, but they're allowed to be employed. So HIPAA is a huge, huge piece that really bothers me.
Well, may you follow?
Well, you know, as Dr. Uma, one of the hats I wore is as an MRO, which stands for as a medical review officer. And you mentioned you got a call from somebody, right? So let me explain to you guys, how many of you have peed in a cup for a drug test? Okay, so every time you guys pee in a cup, there's two types of drug tests. It's either a federal job or non-federal. Now, companies can choose what they want to do in their drug policy. But the bottom line is, if you test positive for medications, a benzo, opioids, for example, if Monique tested this positive, I would give her a call and say, listen, you tested positive. She says, you know, I have a little sleeping issue, so I take a benzo. Oh, I just had dental work done, so I had the opioids. Guess what I reported? If Chris was her employer, as a negative test. She's flying high, okay, at work. But because she has HIPAA protecting her, I report that as a negative because it's still under Schedule 2 and down. Because cannabis is in Schedule 1, and again, descheduling this, I can't repeat this enough. We need it completely off as every schedule. We need to legalize it, and it should be considered as a supplement. People have a endocannabinoid deficiency, folks. If I was diabetic, you're not going to say I'm a bad person, lose the weight. I have a deficiency. I need a supplement. That's what this is about. It's a plant that has killed nobody. Please continue to educate, embrace, and empower. Reach 1, teach 10. I keep saying that. Continue to do that.
You know, one of the my favorite parts of being involved with growing is kind of the therapeutic side of it and just the act of growing. And I wanted to ask our man on the hill here out in California, you know, how much, not just the medicine itself, but you know, the relationship with the plant and you know the therapeutic side of the actual growing, like how much has that helped you, and do you think that could help veterans, getting veterans involved in, you know, seeds in the dirt and being involved in the relationship of growing their own medicine?
Jeez, I like that idea. It's just gardening. It's a lot of manual labor, which is a beautiful thing, and when you're around, you know, stupendously large medicinal cannabis plants, that certainly doesn't hurt, you know, your psyche. Just being able to harvest them and do all that stuff and be able to sit here on this table right here smoking something that I made from seed to bubble hash. You know, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. You know, it's just doing it, getting out there and doing it, and just not talking about it so much, and you know, just do it. Really, it's gardening it's very therapeutic. Being around flowering cannabis plants, and they love it when you talk to them. The CO2, they love it. It's beautiful. Music too, you know.
is what it is. It's getting people proactive in their, their health and their recovery, beyond just doing what you're told, beyond just opening the cabinet, taking out a pill. It's you're actively being involved in your own well-being, and I think that's something that could benefit them far more than the medicine itself.
Can you sit here? Thanks.
And make sure to hydrate always. I hope everybody's hydrating out there. The Freedom Rally can get you. Steven?
Just also a quick peek into how things work at the VA once you've come out and told them that you use cannabis. So I don't take any of the medicines that my doctor tries to give me. I don't take any of the medicines that the psychiatrists try to give me. So I'm considered combative because I just don't, non-compliant. So I don't go there for my help. I'm 100% disabled. Everything, all my benefits are from the government. So I called a vet center. It's in New Bedford. Vet center is a branch of the VA, but not a branch of the VA. They're funded by the VA, but it's for veterans who've been deployed, combat veterans. And I wanted to talk to them about going to the New Bedford one and talking about cannabis to other veterans. I was told I wasn't allowed in. I was told I have an agenda. I said, yeah, I fucking have an agenda. I want to help veterans. What the hell are you doing there? Like, what's your agenda? So that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with it from our doctors to the people that work at the places where we're supposed to get help, telling a veteran that they can't come in there for help. So basically, the only community that takes care of me now is the cannabis community. And I'm healthier and happier than I've ever been in my life. I'm broker than I've ever been, but whatever, it's fine. I take it this way over their way. I need every day, every single day.
That's awesome. We're going to just address anything anybody else wants to have. If anybody has any questions, we'd love to take a few. Come on up, man.
I just want to know, you all have experience in it, but especially Dr. Uma. I've seen a radical difference. I've been trying to treat patients with all sorts of ailments for years, and a lot of the really sick ones, I could give them a copious amount of medicine in quite a variety, but a lot of them, it ends up sitting on their shelves. And I've had a few that have passed on, and that medicine that could have helped them, not necessarily saved them, but at least helped them, sat on the shelf because they were afraid to use it, whether it be through smoking or something that they weren't accustomed to or were afraid of. In the past few years, I've seen a radical difference in using medical packaging and medical apparatus to apply cannabis and having that affect the way people take them. Like my friends right now are making tons of RSO caps, and I've seen people actually taking the medicine just simply because it's in a pill, or the hashish that's in a syringe. It seems to be just the apparatus and the convenience is changing the way people take the medicine. I like to see how you guys feel about it, whether it's going in a good direction.
Rob, thank you so much for asking that question. One of the most important things that I want to bring across is this is again a change in the shift in how we think. We are all about dosing. This freaking dosing. I'm like, my medicine doesn't kill. Okay, so we always say 3 things in my office. Start out low, or very low and slow, and journal. We tell our patients to journal, always hydrate before you medicate. But I think the options that you guys are getting now, to have something in a form that is a capsule, that makes people feel comfortable, because that's our mentality again. Topicals and having things where they have like a bar, a chocolate bar, and it says, take 1 square. I think it's helping people to get used to it. So it's a step in the right direction.
That's the wrong panel to do that on.
Check. Hi, how are you all doing? How can we make sure that the proceeds and the profits don't go to militarizing our police force, which has already been militarized and I feel is only there to round us up and not be there to protect people from those who hurt? With no victim, I feel there's no crime. But how do we make sure that they're not going to put these what they considered this whole time, and we're locking us up for drugs?
So these drugs that they called, and they're not gonna bring them in here and make profit and then put it to militarize us and lock us back up.
You gotta get out there and be active. You can't rely on other people to do this. It's something we all have to do together. We can't just say, all right, we want this. Go send that guy to do it. We all have to be part of it. We all have to be vocal. You gotta get active. You gotta get into with the meetings of the people that are doing the things. And we, like you said, we have to keep an eye on that, make sure it doesn't happen. But it's up to us. We can't just give the power to them.
I have so much respect for everyone on this panel, and I just wanted to mention Steve Mandilli in particular. He felt passionate about helping veterans, and he actually started to sleep on the State House steps. And he stayed there. He stayed there for weeks and weeks at a time, and it actually made the news. And it didn't make the news the first night or the second night. It didn't happen for weeks later. Actually, would you like to talk about that? It's so inspiring. I really think that that's everyone should hear about. When you care about what it is you do, getting involved to the point where you don't wait for others, you act. And that's activism.
Yeah, it all started with when I had that one moment, like I tell people, I snowblowed in my driveway for the first time in 10 years, where before there were like Boy Scouts out there helping to shovel me out, firefighters and police that had plows would come by and plow my driveway, and I was just like, man, I took an hour, I felt fine, I listened to music, and when I was done, I was like, I'm done, like I just did this, like I don't understand why this is working, and no doctor ever told me to do this. So I found it to be like therapeutic out in the streets talking to everybody. I wasn't talking to just politicians, just certain people, but I was talking to people that had no idea what an opioid was. People that are like, well, what is it? I start telling them, well, it comes from a plant, it's mixed with other chemicals, it's created in a lab. For instance, there's heroin, and then there's clean heroin, which they call fentanyl and carfentanil now. It's just lab-produced drugs that are given to us that are also poisonous, to the point where we have to sign a freaking contract when we get it. Like, you're gonna take it, if you do anything like have a beer or anything and you die, or you go for a jog, because a lot of these will affect your breathing, that's your fault. We're not gonna cover you. So the therapy and meeting with both sides, like I would talk to the people in the State House, and I would also talk to the people that those people would never talk to outside the State House, and learn that a lot of what it was like the whole knowledge thing. The people inside don't know about it. The people outside don't know about the other side, and you just got to get all that knowledge out there. And that was the best part of it. That's what made standing out there and knowing that come the morning I would have to find a bathroom that I didn't have to pay to go use. Like, I didn't care about it. I was like, all right, it's better than being in my bed. It's better than laying around in my room and doing nothing, just wishing I could, just thinking maybe I wish I could have died back in Iraq instead. I wish I never came home, because I don't feel like I'm even alive. I feel like the person that I was died over there, and I came back damaged to the point where, I started in the system of the VA and believing it and buying into that, telling you, oh, you're disabled, you're 100% disabled, you can't ever do this, you can't ever do that. I listened to that forever, and I was like, well, all right, you're right. I can't go run a 5K. I can't go out and make millions of dollars, but I'm a pretty big guy. I'm a pretty loud guy, so I'll just go out there and be seen, and I'll make some noise. And, it didn't get covered by the media because of when I climbed up on top of the Fox News van. They got really pissed at us, so I think I got like blacklisted, but whatever. They're gonna eventually, when you're doing the right thing, they eventually have to come around anyways. So kill them with kindness all day.
Everybody here has really put in a lot of contributions, in the community, but also personally. I think everybody has different levels of their activism. You can be a national activist, like many of the people here. You can be a local activist. You can be the activist in your family. You'll be the guy in Thanksgiving, that girl at Thanksgiving that's always maybe the only voice or reason your family gets. But it all starts somewhere, you know, that activism seed starts somewhere, and you know, you should nurture it, and you should get out and be a part of something, and it benefits you to do that, you know, to be active, but it also benefits somebody else, you know, like all of you here today are listening to their story and their experiences, and you'll take it, and hopefully you'll teach somebody else, and then it will grow and grow, and hopefully at events like today, the Freedom Rally, you know, there are young activists here who will step up and keep the ball rolling for future legislation, for things that need to be changed, because that's the only way anything's ever going to change. That's the only way we got decrim in 2008. That's the only way we got medical in 2012. And if you take a look at the situation with the DPH, it's just because we even voted on it, it's not a given. We're still fighting tooth and nail to get the programs in place that we have now. And I believe it's 7 dispensaries open in the state of Massachusetts now, 4 years later. You know, so we gotta keep at it. We gotta make sure our patients have their medicine and have access to these things. I want to just go down and let everybody give one last word, and I just want to thank everybody for coming out. Steve?
Yeah, thank you, Chris, too, for doing this, and thank you everyone for coming. The big message, I guess, is vote yes on 4. Stop letting someone else try to tell you what's best for you. Take it in your own hands, and the simplest way we do it here in America is going out and voting, so that's what we have to do. That's my message.
I also want to thank Chris. Thanks for being so accommodating every time we come up to Boston, man. We love you. And come down to Philly anytime. All you guys, we have these huge parties down in Philly. You should definitely come check them out. Every one of you can be an activist. All you have to do is stand up and yell and make your voice heard. And, you know, get up and do it. We can't do all the fighting alone. We need all of you to help us. So, you know, stand up and say, you know, as my friend NJ Weedman down in New Jersey says, fuck the law, smoke it anyway, right? So that's what we're doing here. Thank you.
I just want to end with, you know, I was just in an entrepreneur program, and I had to come up with a survey. One of my survey questions was to ask how many people themselves have a debilitating or life-threatening illness or someone that they know. And out of that survey, there was over 75% of the respondents that answered yes to that. One of the other questions I asked was, would you recommend or would you talk to somebody about cannabis, or what would you do for alternative therapy? And over 80% of the respondents said that they would talk to someone or consider using cannabis as therapy. That right there is huge. 1000 Watts magazine just did a story on my journey, and my mother is 87 years old and very much against what I'm doing. I brought the magazine to her because she doesn't understand social media, and she sat down and she read the article, and it changed her. It changed how she thought. Her age group is used to magazines in the doctor's office and that kind of thing. Once she read that article, she said, why didn't you share this with your brothers? Why didn't you do something about this? Because I'm battling discrimination in my own family as well. So if you believe it, and if you know it can help you, just stand tall, because the other piece of illness is that you have to stay positive, because if you are negative on the inside, I really do believe that it enhances illness. I think that's why my cancer came back the second time. So you know what you want to do and what you need to do. And if cannabis is that, then stand up for that and be proud of that. And as they've said on the panel, you know, it takes, you educate, how's yours? Educate,
embrace, and empower. Reach 1, teach 10.
Okay, so reach 1, teach 10. I've heard that first today, but it's amazing because there is so much truth to that.
Thank you. I want to give you guys all a hand for yourselves it's a two-way street for me, because I've been empowered because of my patients. Like I said, I get to see them educating, and they're getting out the word. They're feeling comfortable in their own skin, and we are changing the stigma one person at a time, and it is happening, we need to let people know that you have a choice. 10 years ago, I started a company called Global Health and Hygiene Solutions, which was to promote wellness, prevent illness. I had no idea my journey was going to include cannabis. I had no idea I was going to lose my mother. My sorrow has become my purpose, and I love you guys, and you guys give me the encouragement to do what I'm doing every day. Thank you.
I just wanted to remind everyone that there's nothing you can't do. Like we've all been saying, all it takes is you saying, I'm going to get involved, I want to get involved, but realizing you need to get involved. Every single one of us has the ability to teach ourselves and reach our family, reach our friends, talk to people that would never consider cannabis as an alternative or understand the reasons why it needs to be descheduled, why we need a better medical program in the state of Massachusetts and throughout the United States. So let's work on getting it legalized, and let's work on getting it descheduled so that we can all have cannabis for everybody.
First of all, you guys are all like awesome, and I'm just so stoked to even be sitting here. Just want to say, grow your own, do some research, look into what people before you did and do that, or, ask them for advice. Breaking the law is great, but going out and voting for a law that's going to help sick people, you better get out and do that if you're registered to vote. There's people registering folks to vote here. It's very, very important. If you're a vet or you have a family member that's a vet and struggling with the VA, pretty much contact any of these people up here. This guy over here, Steven, and man, just meeting you guys is great. And thank you all very much. And yeah, smoke hash, smoke pot.
One last time, I want to thank everybody here. You guys did an amazing job, and they continue to do amazing jobs in every aspect of this community that they're in. And I want to thank everybody for spending some time with us. And I just want to leave you with the one last figure that really keeps us going in this, 22 service members take their own lives every single day. And we think that that number can come down if they're educated about the benefits of cannabis. So thank you all for coming out.
And now on Tuesday, November 8th, I'm voting yes on question 4 because ending the prohibition of cannabis in the Commonwealth is the right thing to do for our families, our communities, and our future as a society. Cannabis means jobs. Cannabis means wellness. Cannabis means a healthier environment. Cannabis means revenue to help our schools and infrastructure. Cannabis means less addiction to pharmaceuticals and alcohol. Cannabis means a kinder, gentler society. 6 people are going to die today because they drank too much alcohol. 1,300 people are going to die today because they smoke cigarettes. No one in 5 million years has died because they had too much cannabis. It's time to make sensible laws that are based on science, facts, and based on what is right. Massachusetts needs a regulated system for our cannabis industry, and our medical marijuana patients need jobs. The war on drugs has failed. Truths have been exposed. The cost of enforcing prohibition is too great, and we've seen it does not work. It's time for a new approach. So please join me in voting yes on question 4 on November 8th, and vote yes to jobs, yes to innovation, yes to kindness, honesty, fairness, health, wellness, and justice. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. How are you doing today? You all ready for red and meth later? I'm pretty excited about that myself. Yes, my name is Chris Boy. I am a former director of MassCann. I have had a heavy hand in putting on this rally in past years, and I have to say it's more fun just being a speaker and getting to enjoy it. I hope y'all are having as much fun as I am. We were just up on top of the hill. We just had an opportunity to have a veterans panel discussing veteran affairs and the things veterans have to deal with when confronting the VA and the medicines that they're exposed to and they're prescribed. And there's a big push now within the veterans community to adopt cannabis as an alternative to these pharmaceuticals that the VA just so willingly will give them. and there's a big internal push. If you were unaware, the statistic is 22 service members take their own lives every single day. And many of us believe that this figure would be far less if they had cannabis as an alternative to medicine.
And yeah, look at all this freedom around you. We made it, didn't we? No, we fucking did not. Wrong again. We're just getting started, so I hope everybody's planning to vote yes on question 4. That's your first step. All this 30 years of the drug war that's behind us doesn't even fucking count. This is the first day of the rest of your life, November 9th. That's when you gotta get to work, right? So weed smokers only make up about 10% of the population. We need 51% of the population to vote yes, so do the math. You gotta ask your fucking neighbors to vote yes for you, right?
We don't say smack.
You gotta tell them that you like weed, you're a good person, you don't deserve to be treated like a criminal. Would you please vote yes for me on November 8th, right? So you gotta take that message out into your community. You gotta talk to the lady in line at the grocery store, the person on your kid's fucking soccer team. You gotta talk to the person at your school. We need everybody to come out and vote for this, and you have to tell them to do it. So we're gonna practice a little chant I like. You're gonna say, I like weed, and I'm a good person, all right? So on the count of 3, I need everybody to say it as loud as you can. We want them to hear it all the way up in the hills, all the way to New York, and around the world, all right? So on the count of 3, I like weed and I'm a good person.
I love weed.
1, 2, 3. I like weed and I'm a good person. Can you guys go and tell that to everybody you know? I would appreciate that. So then on November 9th, we're gonna wake up, and it's gonna be cannabis freedom and everything's gonna be great, right?
Right.
No! There's still a lot of work to do. So all the laws being written have way too much regulation in them. It's kind of like what I like to call weed racism, that they're treating us, different than they're treating people who drink alcohol or like other things. And so we've got a lot of work to do. So we're gonna do one more chant, all right? It's called, I will work for weed, all right? So each of you's gotta go out and do the fucking work. I'm not doing the fucking work for you. You're the activist. Everyone who's here today, you're an activist. Welcome to the fucking show. Now get ready to do the work. So on the count of 3, we're gonna say, I will work for weed, all right? 1, 2, 3. I will work for weed. All right, I need you to go do that now. I need you to go into your communities. I need you to talk to people. I need you to get the vote out for me. We need to pass this and start ending this madness. Quit taking people to jail for weed. Quit taking people's fucking kids. Quit losing our fucking jobs. It's not okay anymore. All right? So you like weed, you're a good person, you're gonna work for weed. Thank you very much, Boston. Put some money in these MassCann buckets so we can keep doing this. And pick up some fucking garbage before you leave, all right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Damn. That damn Mickey almost talked your head off, but he gave you some information, didn't he? Mickey, we appreciate that, man. Good Lord, Jesus. All right, coming to the stage, everybody. Got a young man coming to the stage, about to light it up. But first, we're about to throw out some gift items from Boston Smoke Shop. And want to give a special thanks to Social High for putting on this event. Everybody give a special thanks to Social High.
Good catch.
All right, everybody. The man needs no introduction.
Over here.
They got an 8th in one of those bags, so y'all better check it. Look, somebody like, damn, where the other bag at? I just seen it. All right, everybody. Got my man coming to the stage, everybody. He needs no introduction. Got my man, Maverick. Give it to him. Chip, chip, chip.
Word. Yeah, there we go. I got the bass and everything. What's up, Boston? Make some noise! What's good, Boston? Where y'all at, Boston, baby? We're gonna liven this thing up right now. I go by the name of Maverick, aka Money Mav. Money Maverick. We gonna bring some energy. We gonna bring the island vibes out there to y'all. All right.
Let's do it.
Let's rock this first joint.
Let's get one right quick. I need everybody to stand up. I need everybody to stand the hell up, man. We about to turn up.
So that's the day. Mark it on your calendar. That's the day that the Boston Globe figured out that cannabis can be used as medicine. And I'm not even trying to be a wise ass. Because when you say these things, I sound nuts. I know I do. But this is kind of what it is. And but here's the thing. I just said this on the bigger stage. It's a much easier venue to say. I'm not gonna. There's a lot going on. I'll kind of leave it with a simple message, and it's this: when you're sharing media, I know, even though I know a lot of you, even if you're really all about the movement and the question that you're going out there, maybe giving people pamphlets in person, but you also have to do more, all right? And you have to share it on social media also. So don't just go about your regular routines. Go a little bit extra. It's 2 months. It's like the final stretch. View it like that, all right? And you don't always have to do things on your own too. They're coordinated campaigns. They're all out here today. Link up with people, meet people, exchange phone numbers. But really, look at this kind of like a horse race, and think about how much it will suck to have to start from the beginning, all right? And but really, channel that kind of outrage, that kind of premeditated outrage into whatever you got right now. This is like got to be a full steam vehicle. And I know there's been a lot of by the way, for the record, there's only a couple of things that I ever really step over the line and advocate for. One has been against prison reform, where I've actually testified at the State House, and one has been for this, because this is bullshit. And it's really interesting because I'm not going to go on and on, but I think we've really seen the media come around. But then on Tuesday they're great, and then on Wednesday, you're all criminals. And it's really been unbelievable. So kind of fighting the war of good old-fashioned smearing on the other side, and there's only a few of us. Mike Crawford's been doing great work. So check out his stuff, definitely, The Token Truth. You can find that all at bingeonline.org or Dig Boston or everywhere. You just find him. You're very omnipresent. All right, cool. So it's very hot out. This is kind of a cool getaway. I'm glad to see a lot of people over here. I don't know. So what's up? Are you hosting this now? All right, cool.
Let's hear it for Chris Ferraro, Dig Boston, Binge, helping fund my work and a lot of great work out there in journalism. Yeah, that's it, what Chris said. Social media, sharing that stuff, putting time in online, that does make a difference. Like, that is campaigning too. Like spend an hour or two every day doing that for us. Because we got 60 days left. We got to win question 4. I mean, I'm going to spend more time. I'm pledging until November 8th or 9th. I got to look it up again. But whatever, till that date comes, I am spending more time on this. So I hope everyone here does too. And we get the vote out. And share the story. Share the story. I also want to bring, if he wants to come up, he used to be the real top editor at Dig Boston before they changed things. He's also a great writer. He's at Esquire and like Vice and all these. He's major. Are you going to speak? He's another journalist. He writes about marijuana too. His name is Dan McCarthy. He's another one with Binge. He and Chris are like partners in crime. It's my honor, Dan McCarthy.
Hello. Yeah. I feel great that I can talk and have like an actual audible soundtrack in the background, although I'm not nearly enough cool to have this. Anyway, real quick, I'm not going to make this long. Everybody that's here right now, right? Every person that's actually sitting here in these seats, everybody that's up on the quad over there, everybody's hanging out and dabbing by the Eiffel Tower, everybody here for the music and all the tables and everything in between. Every single person that's here, everybody should feel exactly what they are. vanguard, and that's part of a movement. And furthermore, you're at the vanguard. Everybody that's here right now is on the front line. So first of all, you should congratulate yourself just for actually being part of something that, what, 27 years ago was laughed out of existence practically by everybody and everyone. Now, if you look around, walk through this crowd, look at every face in the crowd, what do you see? You don't see one type of person, one type of activist, one type of cannabis user, nothing. What you see is a full cross-section of exactly what's happening in the movement. Boston can be seen as a microcosm of what's been happening nationally. And every great movement starts with a genesis point. Right now in the Northeast, this is it. And you are all on the front lines. So the more that you support local media that's covering and getting the story out, the more that you actually embolden the movement with everything from caring about the issues of the day to wanting to move legalization forward to fighting against junk science and prohibition. That is what actually is needed. So enjoy the rest of the rally, and thank you for being part of the vanguard.
What's up, everybody? So, I like to tell people, we have a lot to be happy about because it feels like we're winning the war on drugs. We're winning. We're defeating the prohibitionists. But there's a lot of work to do. There's a tremendous amount of work to do. History is exactly what we're up against here. In history, break it down as the word, his story. And the reason why it's termed that way is because it started with storytelling. It actually predated written language for us to be able to tell our children why they're here, why we're here, why you can't grab snakes and scorpions, what kind of stuff you can eat, what you can't eat. And then of course it progressed into writing, and now we accept it as fact. So there's this tendency for us to follow whatever information is given to us by the accepted system or the person who's entrusted, be it our parents or our grandparents. And it's really hard to shake that, especially when you're a child and you're being raised by your parents and the elders in your family and in the community. The information you're given by them that's filtered down, you're going to accept it completely. There's no barrier to information when you're young and you're being raised. And, you accept and trust the source of the information completely. So we're up against that. Okay, so a good example is, when I was little, I walked by a tree with my dad and I saw some sap. It was like a pine tree and there was like sap coming out of it. And I told my dad, I was like, hey Dad, is that like syrup? Is that like pancake syrup? Is that the same thing? Because doesn't it come out of a tree? And he was like, well, actually no. He's like, if you touch that syrup, your toe will turn black and fall off. And so, and I believed him because I was really little, and you're gonna believe your parents when they tell you stuff. So like, until I was like 15, I would stay away from tree sap like as much as I could. I was just like, oh, no tree sap for me. And then I finally realized, yeah, it wasn't true. So we have that scenario with cannabis information. People have been digesting a lie throughout history, and this lie, well, the best way to say it, Herman Goering said it. He said, you tell a big lie and you repeat it enough and then people will start to believe it. And he was the head propaganda minister for Nazi Germany. So what we have to do is we don't just have to like bring information to people, we have to tear down the old information. You know, the knowledge base that we have about cannabis is like a dirty car filter because so much bad air and so much pollution has been placed and built up that we have to flush that out before we can start to encourage a new knowledge base. We can't go around saying we're going to educate people, because if you tell people you're going to educate people, in that word, in that verbiage, there's a suggestion that they're not educated. You have to respect people and digest information for them and inform them. You know, words have meaning and words have weight, so we don't want to go around with our noses in the air. We want to give everybody the respect and welcome into the community and not geek out also. I'm a cannabis geek, so if I'm like around a fire pit with random friends or barbecue buddies or at a bar or something like that, I'm usually the weed guy in that random crowd. If I'm not at a cannabis event, it's just a random place. And then, okay, so randomly a cannabis topic will make it into the conversation. So what do? I become the weed geek bot. You know, just like, you know, and I just start spewing information, you know, the Anslingers, Chinese emperors, apoptosis, and then they're like just juggling all this stuff, and they're like, okay. And what's going to happen is they're going to walk away from that conversation and be like, well, that guy told me a whole lot of stuff about weed. He must, you know, that must be his thing. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with giving people a lot of information. I think it's great to spread that. Thing is, you have to find a starting point. And often that requires you give them a crumb. You don't give them the feast right there. You give them a crumb, a really good crumb that will lead them into this broader knowledge base, and then they can just start picking at their own pace and not overload themselves. I mean, in college, you can study yourself into a hole. They said don't study for too long because you stop retaining information. So we have to digest it. It's another challenge. You have to be like, it's a terrible analogy, but it's like, I always tell people, be the mother owl, swooping in after a long day of hunting to puke the information into the hungry little mouths waiting in the nest below. You know, you want to regurgitate, you want to digest the information from them. It's a terrible analogy, but you want to digest information. So presenting in a way that people are going to understand is very important. Don't overload them with facts, and make sure you're overcoming knowledge, false knowledge that was planted in there previously. That's some of the biggest challenges we have. Remember, in the age of information, ignorance is a choice. So we have a status quo that has been handed down to us over time. And that status quo has been held in place by a tradition of subversion. And subversion relies on the control of information. And in order to break the cycle and change the status quo and make history less of a template of what we can expect in the future, we have to break down the subversion, which means we have to end the control and the pollution and distortion of facts. Science is on our side, and true history is on our side. So yeah, that's definitely an advantage we have. But there's a lot of work to do. So we have to start by approaching people reasonably, informing them that, hey, you know what, questioning what your parents, your grandparents, your school teachers, you know, when Smokey the Bear came in his full uniform into your classroom, you have to question the information he might, or not Smokey the Bear, McGruff, I'm sorry. No, we believe Smokey the Bear, we believe Smokey the Bear. When McGruff, you know, because we've all let McGruff down basically, right, by enjoying cannabis in our lives. We've all let, yeah, we didn't take a bite out of crime, did we? So you have to double check that information, and you have to encourage people to accept the notion that they can take a second look at what they think are facts. A lot of people, unfortunately, follow bad laws straight to the grave. My mom is from Cuba, and I can't imagine anybody in her family, her grandparents, accepting cannabis medicine. I don't think it would be an acceptable notion. It took me 2 hours to talk her into not being angry about me being in the cannabis industry when I finally got to talk to her about it. Yeah, it is really tough too, because in diverse communities we have very, very conservative households. Being Latino, I have a Roman Catholic, you know, presence in my household, which made it really difficult for me to explain cannabis to that side. My father smoked it since the 70s. He was good. You know, he was totally good. But, you know, it's difficult to get support from our communities too. If you're from a diverse community, you realize that there's not a lot of inclusion in the industry. You know, Maryland actually just awarded a bunch of licenses, and I think like 1 or 2% went to people from diverse communities. And so there's this exclusion, and the last thing we need is our communities not to follow us and not to give us support. So we have to read the information and digest it for them too, because we have opposition on both sides, and that's not going to get us anywhere. So in short, I think we have to clean out the false information, and then secondly, install the facts. Facts are on our side. Start small, find a starting point, use social media. This is the age of technology. There's no such thing as a secret anymore. And so that changes the way history is going to unfold. Thank y'all very much. Vote on 4. Yes on 4.
Yes, I want to ask you to just put your hands together for Ellen and for Eve. You know, they were with us in Jamaica last year, and I'm glad to come here and let's see the level of advocacy, level of activism that you are all going on with, you know. It's good to be here, right? Let me say greetings to everyone. Looking at the crowd, I'm happy with the turnout, the amount of people. But the education of what goes on here, to me, is more important than anything. Education, because as a people, whether black, white, yellow, pink, we have all been miseducated about marijuana. And it was not a matter that this miseducation came about accidentally. It came about deliberately. Because like even the brothers and the sisters who were here, a part of the panel, they testified what they went through. There were other people here, there was like a youth here yesterday who had to go to Colorado, had to move from where he originally lived to go to Colorado in order to get treatment for his illness. After having taken all types of medication out here. Some of these medication, the youth said, brought on side effects on him. That it was only when he started using marijuana that some of those side effects were cured. So it's not a matter that there's not scientific proof and scientific evidence about marijuana. It's a matter that those who find themselves in certain positions want to keep the ignorance going because it is beneficial economically to them. It's simple as that. Right? If we look back at the history of marijuana here in the US, before 1938, from my research, marijuana was used to treat 100 or more different illnesses in the US. But with the rise of pharmaceutical companies, little by little the pressure was turned on by the FBI and the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Don't know how much of you research the history of marijuana in the US. But with the rise of pharmaceutical companies, the FBN started a serious miseducation campaign and a serious fight against marijuana. Now, there are many herbs, and they all grow in our backyard, especially where I come from in Jamaica. So you can easily pick a plant and use it forever, whatever traditionally this plant was used for. But we cannot manufacture the drugs that you have to go to pharmacy to buy. And little by little that miseducation goes on and saying, no, you should not use that herb, you should not use that herb, but you should use this product that I have manufactured and have given it to you. Are they saying that they know more than the Creator? The Creator gives us everything for a reason. It's just the education or the miseducation that we have gone through that makes it different. If you look at most of these products that are manufactured and sold, they come from plants that were traditionally used by in different people's culture to treat basically that same illness. But now it has been chemicalized and it is being marketed. So it becomes an industry. Now, a lot of people cannot mix conscience and business, or the heart and business. So we now have to decide what it is that we are here for. Is it that humanity comes after money and business, or that humanity comes first? Well, from a Rastafari point of view, and from a individual person's point of view, people come first. And for that reason, in Jamaica, we started to confront the system from a very early age. Because as a Rastaman, being persecuted for marijuana, let me tell you, in Jamaica, there was a time if you were caught with one seed or one leaf of marijuana, you'd go to prison for 18 months. Yeah, 18 months. I'm not talking about you had a choice. It was mandatory. You'd go to prison for 18 months. And if you are caught a second time with a seed, you would go to prison for 3 years. And if you're caught having one conviction with a one ganja plant, you would go to prison for 5 years. And if you had 2 convictions and you were caught with one ganja plant, you would go to prison for 7 years. And I'm not talking about you being charged of money, and if you don't have that money, you go to prison. It was mandatory. These are the things that other people we face in Jamaica. But as a Rastaman, knowing my constitutional right, because I am not a lawyer, but I am not ignorant in terms of what the United Nations Charter said and what even our own Jamaican constitution said. So I started to confront the system on the basis of constitutional right. Because if the church can use bread and wine in their church, Rastafari has the right to use ganja in our church. And at that basis, we started to challenge the system. Because according to the UN, constitutionally, we have the right to freedom of religious belief, freedom of expression, freedom of getting together, and other rights. There was a time when, if we gather, the police would come and break down the tabernacles, burst the drums, all manner of things. One thing was good about it, it made people angry and made people decided that enough was enough. So in 1987 we started to go on the streets and started to march. And we started to write letters and we started to seek audience with so-called heads of state, prime ministers and governor general and all the different ministers, because we decided we were not going to take it. I don't drink alcohol, yet alcohol is legal out there. I don't smoke cigarette, yet cigarette is legal out there. Who are you now to tell me that I should not use a plant when you have all these things that WHO, the World Health Organization, is saying is disastrous? And that in 1993 it was said that by the year 2000, 500 million people would die from cigarette smoking, but you have it legal. And marijuana that has never been responsible for a fatality, you have it illegal. So we had many reasons why we feel that to confront the system we would be victorious sometime or the other. And so we continue to march and continue to write. Now, recently, last year the laws were amended. There were amendments before, like in 1972, when after a time, rather than going to prison, you could pay a fine. But then, 2015, last year, the laws were amended. And as a matter of fact, it was amended because there were a series of things taking place. For example, there was a youth called Mario Dean. He was locked up for a piece of split. And he was refused bail on the basis that who came to bail him, the police woman, did not appreciate how the person talked to her. So he was refused bail. And then you know what happened? He died in that lockup. Yeah, he died in that lockup because he was there for a piece of split. And that caused outrage amongst the people of Jamaica. Because they felt it was stupidness for you not to have given a youth a bail because for whatever reason. And so, you know, the argument continued. So last year, the amendment took place. The police cannot lock you up any longer for 2 ounces or less marijuana. They cannot lock you up for that. It is a ticketable offense, but there are no tickets. At the same time, I and I as Rastafari have been given the right from a sacramental point of view that we can grow our marijuana and we can have our marijuana. Now the reason I'm saying all of this is to say to you that even though it's few of you who are here sitting down, But things started, a lot of things started with 1 or 2 or 3 people. So it's for you now to continue to support those who have been doing the work over a period of time. Because 1, unity is strength, and 2, it's not just about marijuana, but it's about other injustices. Other injustices and other forms of discrimination. That's what we are up against. It's a system. That system I know as Rastafari called Babylon. And those of you who listen to Bob Marley music and the Peter Tosh and other reggae musicians, they will always tell you Babylon system must fall. So in the government of the United States of America, what they have been practicing over the years against other people, that has to stop sometime or the other. But you all have a role to play. You all have a responsibility and a duty. So it's no use sitting down and say, this will happen. Yes, it will happen, but how is it going to happen? Is it our duty and responsibility to ensure that it happens, and happens in the right and proper way? So we all have a duty, and I keep saying to you, anywhere I go, keep the struggle going, keep the fight going. The victory of good over evil is a must. But you will have to persevere. You will have to be consistent. But again I say, I am glad for what I'm seeing today. What I saw yesterday, the turnout, I think it's a message to the system. As the event is called Freedom Rally. Because basically everybody here are free. If it's even for 2 days. But it shows you how freedom can be enjoyed. Because normally you wouldn't be able to walk with a spliff and smoke it. But here you are free to burn your herb. And the policeman to be, I don't think they would be stupid enough to want to, disturb or trouble anybody for herb. So this is how you have to do it. Come out and say, we will not hide. Like the nurse lady was talking about, she had to deny who she is over a period of time. Because to say, as a nurse, she was involved or she uses marijuana, she would deny that job. All those things must stop. That's stupidness. What about the man who drinks his rum and is drunk every day but he hasn't in his job? What about the amount of road accidents that are caused by drunken driving? You mean, you cannot continue to discriminate against somebody who uses herb for what? Their own health benefit. If these health benefits were available, a lot of these people would not have turned to marijuana. And if you listen to the testimonies, most of them who have turned to marijuana is because they have tried other medication and it didn't work. So again I say to you, just continue to do what you're doing. Try to focus on the educational aspect of marijuana, because it's good for people to smoke, but it's better to be educated about marijuana. The medicinal aspect of marijuana is very, very important. It is what that...
But I want to step back a second. Now imagine, it's Wednesday, November 9th. You wake up in the morning with a foggy headache. And you know what happened? Yes on 4 didn't pass. What happens then? Now, I bring that scary scenario up because right now you guys have the power to make that dystopian reality not happen. So what I'm trying to suggest to you in the next month is knock on every single door on your block. Have you talked to everyone on your block about Yes on 4? Because when it does pass on November 8th, you want to know who you're going to be partying with, and those are the people on your block. Now, one of the beauties of this law is that it's better than the one that we have in the District of Columbia. In DC, if you live alone, you can grow 6 plants. If Yes on 4 passes, and you live alone, you can grow 12 plants. You want a job? Who here grows cannabis right now? Raise your hand. If you're growing cannabis right now, you can have a job December 15th teaching people how to grow. Right there, automatic job. Teaching people how to grow, but it has to pass. And the only way it's going to pass is all of us working together. Because if we don't work together and we're like, oh, it's going to pass, the polls are up, imagine the polls are showing bad news. In fact, the margin of error, statistically speaking, it's not that great, folks. You need to actually get up and stand up and knock on everyone's door in your community. I'm going to be here for a week, this next week, doing that. And I don't really have to. I'm from Washington, D.C. I'm growing tobacco, cannabis, and hops, the trifecta of beauty in my backyard right now. I don't have to do it. But I'm doing it because I believe the East Coast cannabis connection is happening. We got Massachusetts, Maine, D.C., Maryland's getting its medical on. We got Delaware coming, Philadelphia coming, and it's going to be happening. And we're going to be changing it from the East Coast and showing that the best coast, the West Coast, doesn't have anything here. And our strength is going to be together, that we can actually change the law. So please, make sure you register to vote. Pull out your cell phone right now. You can do it online. All you need is your Massachusetts ID and a cell phone. You can register to vote right now. You don't go to fill out any paperwork. So thank you so much. Have an awesome Boston Freedom Rally. I'm happy to be here. Ask me any questions later. Thank you so much.
Nicholas, Schiller, everyone. Legalize it, vote yes on 4. All right, we have another gentleman coming up. Leland Berger, he comes all the way from Maine, everyone. Huh? Portland, Oregon. I'm sorry, not Portland, Maine. Portland, Oregon, a different state. Comes all the way from the West Coast, folks. Give him some love. One of the pioneers, engineers of this freedom rally. Give us Mr. Leland Berger. Freedom Rally! Freedom! 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 Yes on 4! Yes on 4! The only way we're going to get freedom here in Massachusetts, like we have in Oregon, is to register to vote and vote! So if you're not registered to vote, register to vote. You can register right up over there where that path switches back is the SSDP, the Students for Sensible Drug Policy. You can register to vote right there. Oh, but I'm a felon, I can't vote. Really? Who told you that? You can vote if you're a felon, except if you're actually physically in custody on election day. Oh, my PO said I can. Well, is that the first time you think your PO lied to you? Register to vote and get everybody you know to register to vote. Everybody that you smoke with to register to vote. Everybody that you don't smoke with, get them to register to vote. And get them to vote yes on 4. We're absolutely, positively going to need everybody to come out and vote. And let me tell you something. You know, we legalized in Oregon in 14, and legalization changes everything. It changes law enforcement attitudes about enforcement. It doesn't mean there's no more work to be done. There's still people that don't like our kind, that want to discriminate against us in housing and employment. And, you know, there's lots of other work to be done. The rally here, I'll keep going. But it'd be great to come back next year and have you all be legalized so we could be free while exercising our freedom. Thank you very much.
I think it's really important for rallies like this for everyone to come out to see the support, because I spent years being ashamed that I smoked pot because a pill didn't work. And that's something that separates from everyone else. But it's something that in times like these, patients will see. It really brings us all together. So I thank you all for coming out today. It's such a pleasure to be for you guys. Thank you. And if you want to see my before and after, I have pictures. new ideas. This is one of the biggest ways that you can show your support and involvement in the cannabis movement. Talking is another incredible way to get involved. Talk to your neighbors about cannabis. Talk to your mailman. Talk to your grandma. I was just talking to my grandma about cannabis last week. Educate others. And never stop educating yourself. Seek information. Ask questions. Take classes about cannabis, such as those offered at the Northeastern Institute of Cannabis, or go workshops like Ellen Brown's Camilla seminars. Find an organization to join, like Women Grow or MassCann. Get together with your stony friends for a cannabis-themed cooking night or a book club. Talk about your cannabis use. Normalize your use of cannabis. Get out of the cannabis closet. Are you a student? Look into the opportunities that your school has for you to get involved. Does your campus offer an organization like the Cannabis Reform Coalition or a chapter of Students for Sensible Drug Policy? If not, can you start one? With cannabis legalization on the ballot in just a couple months, we need to gather all the voters we can, especially the young people. I was just talking to a friend of mine yesterday about how crucial it is for this year's election that the younger crowd makes it out to vote. Politicians and the people making the big decisions in this country only listen to those who go out and vote on the issues. This is the only way that your voice will be heard and the only way that we will get cannabis legalized this November. As a young person, I have been hearing a lot of, I don't like the options for president this year, so I'm just not going to vote. But you can vote for cannabis legalization along with the other questions on the ballot without choosing a presidential candidate. Additionally, I feel a lot of young people see voting as a novelty and not a necessity. In a democratic country, we are allowed the right to vote, and we are given a chance to express our opinion on a matter. Where that is taken into account before a decision on that matter is made. This is an incredible privilege that so many young people take for granted. Help educate your fellow students and encourage them to get involved, to go vote. Speaking of voting, that is another huge way to get involved right now. Go vote. Question 4 is on the ballot this November regarding legalization of cannabis for recreational purposes. We need everybody's support and involvement to get this bill to pass. You cannot rely on others to make the right decision for you. You must get yourself out and go to the polls on November 8th and vote yes on 4. Thanks, guys.
This comes from Mother Earth. We're talking about 5.28, which is, if you look at it, Husson's, his study is healing straight from the heart. This is where we're coming from. This is a feminine plant. And I believe that we've been under a lot of control, right? Our government, our society, our brain patterns have actually been controlled. And this is why our plant has been taken away from us. And if you look at this plant, it's a natural healer for mom. You can only get these cannabinoids from your mother's breast milk. I believe Uma has been saying this as well. So these cannabinoids go in and change the cells in your body to shut it off. So if you're having any medical issues, which I have, 2 years ago I took a loss and took care of my little son. At the time he was first grade, yeah, so he was a little bit younger, but we now have our own in Newberry, and what we do is we coach people on how to get their medical marijuana license, which I don't even like to call it marijuana, I like to call it cannabis, because I think that in our society we've actually labeled this beautiful plant with a negative name. We need to look at her as a provider, and what we're doing right now is we're standing up for feminine, divine equality, and this is a paradigm shift we're on right now. We really, as women, as men, need to realize that we need to all heal, and our negative thinking patterns need to all change. So right now, us being together, we've already manifested this. This is all our own brain patterns right here. So right now, at the
days and time after this, I want you to really look inside yourself, really find that space for yourself, and ask yourself, what do you want next year to look like? Who do you want to see here next year? And I will guarantee you, no accident, it will happen. It will happen that there are people here that you have only dreamed of to help bring back that grounding of Mother Earth. And I really encourage you guys to keep positively thinking about us all coming together and being shepherds, because that's what we all are doing. Shepherding consciousness back to Mother Earth. I'll let you talk to Teresa because she's a great detox person, energy worker, Reiki, and bless you today. Be well.
Thank you. I agree 100% with everything she said. Absolutely, it's from nature. There's absolutely no reason it should be illegal. It's a medicine. It's a way to connect with God. All kinds of things, depending on who you are. It's important too that we all think about besides this, just taking better care of ourselves, drinking more water, eating better foods, like she mentioned, detoxifying our bodies, detoxifying our mind, our thought patterns, stripping all that stuff, right? So basically that's our message, just back to Mother Earth. Thank you.
Thank you guys. She is an activist, she is a warrior, she is a breast cancer survivor. And I'm so honored to hear your speech. Hi kids, how are we? You good? Everybody happy out there today? What? Hey, there's Beth, the woman's pro, another great woman to know. Let me tell you, you keep yelling around, you gotta come around and stand up with Beth. That woman's pro on Boston, okay? Oh, I don't want to talk about it. Okay. Listen, I've been marching in Boston since 1970 when it wasn't a real thing at the gazebo when we were here for gay rights. So that took us like 45 years, you know. We still don't have all our rights, but we got a lot of them. So I've been here, I've been in front of that house, the one with the gold dome, which they should give to us. And I have to say that 5 years ago when I discovered my cancer in my chest, I told myself I was cancerous. And then I said, okay, you find your worship in that, you're going to get through it. Okay. I thought about it for a minute. Being a caregiver and a hospice caregiver and crossing people over the other side, for years I've been given a lot of blood pills to a lot of AIDS patients because they needed it the worst. That was back in the 80s to get my grip, so it's been going on a long time. I never did it for us. So I smoked. My kid came home, my granddaughter came home and said, hey, listen, we're talking about marijuana in school. She was in the first grade. I stopped smoking 25 years. And I picked up again when I found the cancer in my chest. So I smoked it, I ate it at least for 6 weeks before I let them cut me open. And when they cut me open, they gave me radiation for 10 times, which was potent power. Then they gave me chemotherapy for 2 years. I was totally bald. 3 years I had no opiates. I had no opiates for 5 years, and this is my growth of cannabis. This is what cannabis did to me. I only take a thyroid pill now today. I used to take 15 drugs before I started to smoke cannabis. So I don't take any of those. Just the thyroid. That's it. Okay, I can deal with one pill, not 15 anymore. So we need you to get out here, help vote, get that across the page. Let's move on with it. Let's tell the mayor, let's tell the governor, let's tell the House. We need our rights as we do every day. So please, make sure you tell one person, and that person passes it on to another person. I'm not asking for 10, I'm just asking for one. And we can wipe it out. And then next year when we come back to party on Boston, we and you will be the help that we needed to pass all of these bills. On FOA, November 8th, please say yes. Thank you, and listen,
it wasn't for National Grassroots, if it wasn't for Northeast, if it wasn't for cannabis, if it wasn't 27 years of people who have busted their bottoms to make this a real thing, you wouldn't be sitting here with me today. So remember, there's a lot of people who work out there and you don't even know who they are. So thank them. Make sure you get one person to vote. And all you kids who are only 18, you make sure you get your nana and your papa to their voting station. Because elders need your help. Okay? Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen.
I love this woman.
I love this woman. What an honor to have her speak. Everyone, can we give KP Owens a big round of applause? Thank you. Thank you for your activism throughout the year.
Helping to write the advanced curriculum for Northeastern Institute of Cannabis Technology solventless extractions. I'm calling all my panelists up here. We're going to teach you guys a little bit about solventless concentrates. My favorite method of smoking. I'm an asthmatic. It's basically saved my life. It's also taken me off of a lot of pills. And I'm sure many people here can relate to that. So let's get this discussion going.
Hi, my name is Ellen Brown and I work at Sensimia Seminars. I also work over at the Northeastern Institute of Cannabis. I love that we're having a panel today about solventless medicine because it's a form of medicine that we can look into for helping our patients and furthering the movement.
Yeah, hi, my name's Kyle Correo. I wash bubble hash and I crush rosin on a large rosin press. I live in Northern California, but I'm from here. How's it going? I'm Addison Demora. I'm one of the co-founders of Steve Hill Laboratory, which is the first cannabis analysis laboratory in the country. I've been with Steve Hill since 2007, and then just last year left the company to start a new investment consulting firm to be able to bring concentrate companies and other businesses like that forward in California. I live in California, but I'm from Massachusetts. So.
I'm Mila from Pollinator Company in Amsterdam, and we make the apparatus you need to make non-solvent hash. So we have dry system sieves, we have with bags, crushing machines, and that's my part in this.
Hi, I'm Eric from MassCannabis. I'm a local from Worcester. My friends and I have one of our work with non-solvents and other stuff, some mass genetics and stuff. Sorry. I'm also the owner of Nerd Creations, a seed company based out of Barcelona. And I'm so happy to be up here with all these people. These guys are so great.
All right, we're going to start this discussion off with talking about the equipment that you guys use and need to make the proper concentrates with solvent methods, whether it's dry sift or bubble hash. Kyle, you want to talk a little bit about micron bags and how they are supposed to be displaced through sizes and etc.?
Sure, depending on the method that you're using, if you're using a machine, then you're using a sealed 220 bag inside of your machine, but if you're just using large bubble bags and trash barrels like I like to do, using 220 and then a food bag and then a catch bag at the bottom. Depending on how high grade your material is, really it's how many food bags you want to use and how wide your microns want to be. They go down 220, 190, 160, 120, 90, 73, and then you got all your garbage down to your 25 bag.
Can you explain to them by garbage what do you mean, and what are your most desirable bags? What are you looking for out of that selection of bags the most?
And just like Mila will say, it's between 90 and 73. Some people pull a rad 90, some people pull a rad 73, and depending on the food bags you use above it is what you're going to catch with it. I don't like the 25 because you get a lot of like dead bugs and sediments and stuff in there. Depending on the grade of trim that you're running, I mean, I see a lot of food grade trim. You know, I'll run a lot of garbage trim for edibles. You know, I feel that it's a lot of dead bugs and stuff in the 25. Although recently a guy called Max Trichome showed me a 25 that looked like as good as any 73 I ever had. Yeah, strain dependent, material dependent.
I always think the main thing to make a good hash is, of course, the genetics, because you're never going to get better than what you put in. But I agree with the 70 and 90 micron bags. For me, they give the best. Because also with the big crystals, if you draw it out, each crystal has a thin layer of cellulose around it. So if you have masses of little crystals, the percentage of cellulose is much higher. And there's only a tiny bit of oil in those little crystals, even if you catch them. So big crystals is good. And yeah, genetics will determine the size of the crystals and also whether it was an outdoor or an indoor. So what we sell most is the 220. The 120, just to clean it up a bit, is 70. And the 38. The 90, yeah.
Alright, so if any of you are confused by a micron bag, it's a bag that has a pore screen at the bottom, so when you pull it up, it collects all the resin that you have, but lets all the water drain out. So it's basically a filtration system. Every bag has a different micron size. With that being said, and all this talk about strains, I wanted to go into a little bit of a discussion about the material that you want to use when it comes to making solventless extractions, specifically foam melt bubble hash. You want to elaborate a little bit, Kyle, Eric, on what types of material you use when it comes to dry sift and bubble? Eric, let's start you off.
Yeah, when I make my dry sift, it's usually we trim up all our flour over trim bins and everything, and these are the micron bags that you were talking about, the 17, 90. Yeah, so we trim up over trim bins. You take the dry sift that's underneath those screens, and yeah, so we after we're done trimming, I usually take all my trim, I throw it in the freezer for a couple hours, freeze it up, then I take it out, I bounce the hell out of it, or they have these things called tumblers. It's a big tote, has a tumbler inside it with one of these bags that are in a wheel. I put it in there for about 2 minutes. A pollinator, yes, we call them pollinators, the hash queen. And 2 minutes in there, take it out, scrape all your dry sift up, and then what we do now is make it into rosin. So I take it, I wrap it in a 220 screen, one of these pretty much, I cut it up into a little tea bag, put it in my press at about 230 for about 15 seconds, and you're golden. Comes out, you got fire, you know, even comes with that, nice and easy. Thank you.
I guess what we're saying here is there's a big difference between a dry sift and a bubble hash. What he's doing is a completely dry separation process. What we're doing, we're taking H2O and ice and we're mechanically separating in a washing machine and extracting our resin instead of separating with like a shake or a couple bundles, you know, where you're actually washing for 5 minutes or so in a washing machine. And I'm gonna go into that right now with Kyle and have him talk a little bit about what types of material he prefers when it comes to making solventless extractions, whether it's fresh frozen material or dry.
Well, just like anything else, it's gold in, gold out. And like Eric over here is running the best material in the country, winning awards all over the place. I mean, he's going to have the best material, like for sure, Mass Genetics. I mean, if fresh frozen is rad, but your yield is a lot lower with bubble running it through bags, and you're also catching heads at a lot higher of a food bag. Running it dry, you'll get a much larger yield, and you'll be able to wash it much more. Like once fresh frozen material thaws out, you know, you start getting chlorophyll in your food bags.
Mila, do you have any tips for terpene preservation when it comes to making ice water extractions?
It's definitely true that with the dry sift, you're going to keep all the terpenes, and as soon as you throw it in water, you're going to lose some. So my advice is, just keep it in the water as short as you can. Don't let those bags sit in the water. Something else is that when you add ice to the water, it's very important to get the temperature down to about 40 Fahrenheit because at that temperature, the crystals will get hard like glass. So they will just tumble down. If the temperature is much higher, they will be sticky and they will just stick back on your leaf and you will hardly have anything falling down. That's one thing. Also, I don't like many of the trimmers because many of the trimmers use oil. and then you're never going to get a root hash. The best hash to make if you want to make it from trim is to trim by hand.
So basically, with both of these processes, dry sift and full melt, you're looking for the best starting material you can possibly obtain. And with that, you may end up seeing some really good results. With that being said, I wanted to go into a little bit of a discussion about some tips and technique we have about solventless extractions. Right here, we have some of the most prestigious, award-winning, well-known extractors probably in the country and in the world, like I said. So I want to let you guys elaborate a little bit about that, please. Who would like to start? Kyle?
Know where your material comes from is so important. Making sure that you can trace back that source, making sure that it's organic, making sure that it's the strain that people say it is, because when you take down that concentrate, you're working with those terpenes, those flavonoids, those cannabinoids, and those are going to go to patients. So you want to make sure the medicine you have is made organically, it's cured properly, and that it doesn't have any molds or pesticides in it, because who is getting that end product at the end of the day? So accountability for your medicine is huge, especially when it comes to extractions.
There's a couple little tips and tricks and whatnot that, I mean, I've washed a lot of lower grade trim in my time for food grade and stuff, and you can pre-wash your trim with water without ice before you run it. If you don't feel like doing that, you can just, when the buck is just about empty, all the dirt will sink to the bottom, you just dump that out. I agree about the trim machines. I mean, I've seen a lot of trim in my couple of years out there that it's just horrible for extract.
Yeah, I think that one of the main things too around water hash is storage. What people don't realize is that the trim material or the plant material is food for mold. And if it's not properly stored and there's too much moisture, you can make the greatest hash ever. And that night that you made it, you might take a couple dabs and you're like, oh, it's a little moist, it's okay. If that isn't allowed to dry correctly, by the next morning, mold will already be there very aggressively. And even when you see sometimes that some companies will make a dry hash and then they'll get packaged and sealed in containers, sometimes at the dispensary level, when patients are getting it, it has mold on it. So one of the reasons why I'm not a huge fan of water hashes or things like that is because with the laboratories, Steepville has laboratories in 8 states. So we're able to gather a lot of data on different types of molds that are seen in the cannabis community. But then there's moisture levels in different states. Washington's much wetter, so you're going to have higher levels of mold there. But when you take all that data and you look at it, the amount of water hash that has mold in comparison to BHO, it's insane the amount of numbers. BHO doesn't have mold on it. At Steepville, for the time before I left, I looked over all the data for all the solventless and all the solvent hash, all the BHO hash, and a lot of the statistics come around it. And there was never one single time that there was a BHO sample that ever had any type of mold on it. And that's because it can't survive the process. It's not going to be there. And if it's done properly and it looks good, there's never going to be enough plant matter that's food for mold to live on or exist with. So you're protected. And then typically, those concentrates that you have high levels of terpenes. Those terpenes work as an antifungal, so they can't form on there on top of it. So it's the safest in terms of making sure there's no mold. And mold, if you're an immune deficient patient, you don't want to really be messing with waterless hashes very much because that type of mold can be a detriment, especially when you're combusting it or smoking it. So what my point was is when you're making these water hashes or any of this stuff, make sure that your material's either dry or make sure after you've made it, you've stored it in the correct way. You can take wet material and put it into a cryo, and it's going to hold everything dormant. So if you're storing your material, all of your close trim or whatever, even if it's live, you can just throw that into cryos with the right level of micron on your bag, or sorry, I think it is a micron level for how thick the bags are. We use large silicone containers to store stuff inside of the cryo machines. But if you have those, you can store material in there and that'll protect it. But if you're holding onto your own stuff, if you're storing it kind of in the back room or anything like that, sometimes you'll run into, and you won't see that there's mold there. You can typically smell mold before you see it. So storage is really important too, especially for post-product and once you've made it, once after you've done making it and you're storing away your hash, you want to make sure that you're storing it correctly, because otherwise everything can go wrong really fast if you're not. So.
I think I already said most of everything. To dry it when it comes out of the bags, we put it through a strainer and rub it through so that it's separated, and then you can just lay it out on white sheeted paper and it'll dry very well. Keep it there for 24 hours longer if you think it's already dry. By the way, the washing machine was invented to clean dirty socks. So for a washing machine with the right temperature of water, it's so easy to take off all those crystals. It saves a lot of work.
The best thing I could say for making non-solvent hash is know your grower. Make sure that they have, proper humidity controls and everything, that they're not promoting mold in there. And like everybody else is just saying, just keep it clean through the whole process. It's medicine. Wear gloves, just keep it clean.
Alright, that brings us to the final phase discussion of the solventless extractions. What Mila was explaining is our terminology called sieving or microplaning. That word molds, microbials, is very scary. If you end up sieving or microplaning, it's really going to help you guys prevent that mold. With that surface area, with the parchment paper, if you sieve through a sieve or like a cheese grater kind of, you're going to be able to spread those trichrome heads out all over that piece of parchment, and that's going to add surface area for those resin heads to dry properly. The problem everybody's having is they're adding all those trichrome heads together too soon, and they're trapping moisture in between those glands and closing them in a jar, which is often causing an auto butter effect, which really isn't what you want. If you have a real 6-star grade hash, it's going to be nice, translucent, gooey. Sometimes not. It may end up looking like crystals, which is also very, very good. With that being said, I wanted to go into a little bit of a talk about rosin tech. This has absolutely taken the nation and the world by storm over the last year and a half, myself including. I love rosin. I smoke it every day. I've been starting to make it myself. A couple people on this panel I consider to be experts in the field right now. I wanted to bring a little bit of a discussion first about your starting material you want to use for rosin and different types of starting material you can use. Flour, bubble, and dry sift. What do you guys prefer?
So I just started actually getting into the rosin pressing. I usually just made my bubble hash and I was happy with that. And then I started to press my medicine even further, or just do flour. You can just press flour, it's amazing. And then you take all those trichomes off and you can just add that medicine right there.
I run a 10-ton modified 10-ton bake press made by a guy named Billy Wood in Ashland, Oregon. It's a rosin presser. I prefer to crush bubble hash on the smaller plate. The platens that I use are about 1.5 by 1.5. Low temperature, high pressure. Like the higher pressure you can use on whatever situation you have going for your rosin, the better. It just means you can use a lower temperature. There's people now cold pressing, 150 degrees, under 150 degrees. With rad material like that, you can make something that's almost white. If you run a bubble hash with a disgusting flour like this, and then rosin it like through a thick micron, a high pressure and a low temperature, really almost no temperature. The better the material is, the less heat you even need to extract the plant material out of the extract the resins out of the plant material. And it all comes. I mean, you can run dry sift, what comes out of a tumbler, but like outdoor tends to be a lot dirtier. So like a pollinator, right. So like outdoor will tend to be a lot dirtier. So if you do that, then you'll have a darker rosin. And the darker rosins, I mean, they can still be flavorful, but they're not really marketable. Yeah, particulates and all that garbage in them. But mostly the low temperature butter with fine bubble hash comes out like looking like BHO wax. And I've never had any bubble or anything like that test for molds or microbials or anything like that. But with the real serious testing now for the competitions, like getting down to the real small levels of it, finding pieces of parchment, hexane from or rubbing alcohol from cleaning, like all kinds of stuff in competitions all over the place. Serious names are absolutely getting popped for microbials and stuff with bubble. It's improper drying, swag materials, stuff like Evil 20 that's used for powder mold out west. With that, I'll pass it. I love my rosin. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, mean, a couple things. I think that the main thing when it comes to hash, I mean, they categorize dry sip hash by stars. The higher the stars, it means that it's gonna bubble. If you put heat close to it, it starts to bubble up. And the other thing is, it can only do that if there's no plant matter. So the best thing I think to make rosin out of, the only rosin that I like, Nate makes, and it's made from dry sip, and he does it in a hand press. So it's not a lot of heat at all, and there's dry sip's not going to have any type of particulate whatsoever in it. The higher grade material that you're using, which means nug run material, that's going to turn out to be less oxidation. The fresher, newer nug run that you have, people don't realize it, but that gold color that you see in a concentrate is called phytol, and that's a terpene. That terpene's only there when chlorophyll's completely gone. So that's where the battle kind of is won in terms of like the math end of when you're making concentrates. If it's got that golden color, it has a high level of phytol, and phytol means that there's nothing green in it at all, which is the safest way to do it. It's going to give you more flavor, more taste. So for me, it's lower temps always, and the higher grade material, which is usually dry sip, and at least a half-gram dab, I think, to properly taste good dry sip the right way and cap it correctly, and don't cough at all. And then you get beamed up to another ship at that point. Then you're jamming right, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, Eric, we're talking a lot about temperatures. I wanted to let Eric go into a little bit about the types of temperatures he's using when he does press his sift. If he has a different grade of sift, does he use a different temperature, a higher temperature, a lower temperature for more? What does he do for better yields? You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
I briefly went over stuff earlier about how I make it. So I like to use the dry sift, and I'm pretty much like an Indian. I take my bud, we all hand trim it. We have trim bins we trim over, so we get to save what falls off. Nothing tries to be wasted. Then the buds do their thing, cure, go out into the world, and my family. The trim, though, what's left over, that's the gold. That's what we use. I take that, then you put it in the freezer. Like he was talking earlier, it's got to be like fresh. The quicker the better. Put it in the freezer for like 2 hours after you're done. Let all the trimmers go home, pat them in the back, say, yeah, bye. Then you take that trim, put it in either the pollinator or on the trim bins, what I just did, and then you just shake the crap out of it. You end up with a whole bunch on the bottom, man. It's gold. It's like powder. If you go to MassCann on Instagram, you'll see some of the pictures I've taken and the process that I do. Then from there, I take one of these bags, or I buy the screens themselves, the 220 micron screens, cut them up into tea bags. You can buy them, but it's easy enough to cut them up and throw it in there to the size that you have. I actually use a D-nail press, it's one of the first ones, but it's a big 15-inch plate because I use a lot of dry sift. So I don't have the high pressure that goes down on it, so I use a 220 for a temp at 15 seconds. And mine comes out gold or will auto butter, because I think, like what Addison was talking about, what I didn't know about, when you do those high pressure, it comes out brown. You're pushing the chlorophyll out. That needs to stay in there. It's nasty. It needs to fully dry it out, like till it's like crumbly. And then you can squish it, and then it will come out gold. Like you see a lot of the rosins now is brown, and it's because, like he's talking about, it's chlorophyll, I guess. Chlorophyll gives you a headache. It gives me a headache. And yeah, then there's other techniques when it comes out and it's yellow like that. You can make it auto butter and look pretty just by putting it in your pocket for a day. And then by the time you're done, it comes out and it looks beautiful, and you can brag to your friends about how cool it is. All right. Thank you.
All right, at this point in time in the panel, I'd like to start to take a couple questions from the crowd. If you'd like to take a question, please raise your hand. Come on up, bud.
You guys do any dry ice sift? Press?
Yeah, the dry ice sift. When I went to go do it, because I seen it on TV and all that jazz, everybody who asked at the labs and everything said too much contaminants come through. Addie will probably be able to explain a little more about it.
Well, I think what comes out of the dry ice, maybe for the first 3 seconds, it's okay. And after that, the thing is that not only the Christmas trees, but all the leaves So they start coming through in really a short time.
Yeah, if you take cannabis that's prepared to be smoked, and like when I roll a joint, I'll take it apart and take as much leaf out as possible. If you do that process and mechanically separate what you're going to do the dry ice with, like little popcorn nugs, then you can get something really nice, but you're taking everything out. And then when you're using cold, you're making everything incredibly brittle. So you're separating it by using the brittleness. When you're using a press, you're using that continuity of all that heat to rush everything out. So it's sort of pressure, heat, cold. Those are all different ways. I think cold is best for extracting juice because you keep certain cells and other things alive. Where with cannabis, it's not, in extractions, it's not so important. Plus you get so much particulate and other stuff that comes with it. I think, the best way is probably getting dry sift and pressing that at the right temps. Everyone wants to try something new and they want to be the guy that says hey, I figured out fucking that one before everyone else did, and it's rad, but the one with cold is a little different than some of the other stuff. I would continue to experiment with it and see what you can get, but the yields typically are lower, and there's usually more particulate, and then you have to add another process to it to get it back down to where dry sift would be. That's the other thing. And then
So you're talking about the contaminants in the dry ice. And after you dry ice, shake it, you get first shake, second shake, third shake, and first shake's always the best, absolutely. But then you can take that and dry sift it. So is that going to remove the contaminants? Now, my question was then, is the dry ice causing problems? Whatever, dark.
One thing about dry ice is it's very, very hard to get clean dry ice. He was mentioning the stuff that's in the dry ice. Yeah, it's gross. In my opinion, using dry ice for hash is completely bunk unless it's really quick. I've seen dry ice hash that's bright yellow that won't press at all, and then you throw it in the press and you throw however much pressure on it, it comes out very, very dark and very low yield.
Dry ice I think works best in a lab setting. If you blast and you're blasting and you have a chamber, it's the same idea. That chamber, they're using the cold in the chamber to get the waxes and fats to separate and get that stuff off. Dry ice, I've seen guys take, blasting into mason jars and then putting those jars into dry ice and then watching the separation occur in there. And you can take the darkest, nastiest oil and you can clean it that way and turn it to gold every time. It's phytol rich, beautiful. It's just open blasting and doing that method is pretty dangerous. It's something where you could blow yourself up or someone else up. And if you have a closed loop, it does it inside the chamber for you, so you really don't have to add that stuff to it. But the way I've seen dry ice, I wouldn't apply dry ice to any material that I was going to smoke, just because of the amount of contaminants and freon and other nasty shit. It's too easy, and I think the main thing that I try to promote in cannabis is that you can get everything out of cannabis 100% naturally that you can do non-naturally. Like if you've got a grow room and you have to use Eagle and all this shit, maybe your room's too small and the ventilation's not correct, and there's things that you can fix instead of going into that dark end of things and using all these chemicals. If you're using that stuff like too much neem or anything else, the concentrates are going to come out horrible anyway, because you've added all this shit to the mix that now has to be concentrated along with those other smaller compounds that you're trying to pull out. So it's just the natural way of doing it is the best way of doing all of it. You can have a small room. When you set up a grow room, make sure you have incredible ventilation. That's one of the key things. So you can have a lot of heat from the lights and then still keep the plants cool enough and then keep the place clean and not use all these pesticides and not use this other stuff. Because at the end, you're going to have 100% organic cannabis, and as long as you dry it correctly, you can then do all this stuff that we're talking about and get that best product, and you don't have to come up with it reinventing the wheel. You just do everything you're supposed to do right and do it with, with cleanliness in mind and do it the right way. And then the product that you have in the end is better than, what anybody has, because it came from you, you know where it came from, you know who created it. And then when you're done with it, give it to somebody if you can, and that's how you keep the cycle going. So that's kind of what I try to promote the most, is stay organic and natural. And then when you're done, give some extra shit away to somebody, especially someone who's sad. That usually helps out a lot. So.
By the way, if you want to know more or less what the quality is of the hash you're making, I always find if you can put some in a plastic bag and walk on it for 20 minutes and it turns out like a golden plaque, you got the right quality. If you need like 500 kg to get it to become one piece, anyway, it'll be black by then, yeah.
Like I said, know your grower. You know, I grow all mine, so I know where mine comes from. You know, and it's a great hobby as well. If you're gonna get into hash making and all that, why not grow your own? You know, you got your own plants to play with, your own strains, everything. If you need any pointers, there's enough stuff on the internet. You know, people to ask. So don't be afraid. You know, it's legal now.
All right, we definitely have time for one more question. We have 20 minutes before 20. Come on up, man.
Hey, how's it going, guys? You guys got a lot of experience making hash. I only have little experience. I wanted to know about these new methods of like freeze drying. Is it worth it spending, you know, $5,000? Or can I use like unconventional methods? Like I've used dry ice before just to get my patties really cold before microplaning, and that worked out well for me before. But obviously, I keep it from making direct contact with the actual dry ice. Yeah, I was wondering if you could share any knowledge of dry freezing hash.
Yeah, freeze drying seems to be the way to go with bubble. Is it worth the money? Do you have a market? Yeah, if you have a rat enough material, you get a freeze dry. You know, it'll make it much better. It'll dry it much quicker. If you're in a drier environment, just like a clean room with that's very well ventilated. Where I'm at, there's no humidity, so it feels really weird right now with all this. But yeah, just as low a humidity as you can, as spread out as you can. I like to sieve, and I'll sieve it through just like a regular sifter and spread it out as much as I can. And if the material is rat enough, like you're talking about, don't use dry ice. Just throw it in the freezer until it's solid, and then shred it up with a cheese shredder. You're microplaning it. You know, I don't like to microplane it because weird stuff happens in the freezer sometimes if you don't seal it properly. You could have a whole pull turn into sand, you know, if you don't watch it, you know. Just gotta be real careful with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the other thing too is there's laboratories everywhere, and the way that whole business works is sometimes they're getting grants to prove a study, a proof of, you know, purpose of a study or something like that. So laboratories, they'll spend a shitload of money, they build a giant laboratory, they prove what they're trying to prove, and then they sell everything off at auction. I mean, I've gotten cryo freezers for $400 just by following auctions and getting to the auction and bringing cash and being ready to buy it. I mean, there's laboratories like Raytheon, there's these big, huge labs on the East Coast. I mean, you go all the way down the coast and they're everywhere, and you just search them out, you find these auctions, and you can buy cryo freezers for really cheap, and have a cryo freezer of your own. And we have taken columns, and you can pack material in columns and then stick them in cryo freezers. So you're pulling columns out that are coming fresh from the cryo and then running them right away, and then refreeze them, and then run them again. I mean, there's stuff that you can do if you have a cryo that fits your columns in it, and you know, it's just, or you can go the whole next level. There's restaurants everywhere. There's restaurants going out of business. You can buy an entire walk-in fridge, and I have friends that own walk-in fridges, and they've converted and taken walk-in fridges and they turn them into labs where they're pressured out rooms where they can blast in and do all kinds of shit. And then you can open blast because you're in a fucking pressurized room. So you can find and build these laboratories that you need, you know, sparkless fans and all these different things that you need to build a safe environment. But my point is it's not as expensive as you think to buy a cryo freezer. Like I said, I've got a nice one for $400. You can spend up to, I mean, Steepville has some that are $20,000 that are the size of this table that you can put bodies in, you know. I mean, there's big ones. Or there's ones that are, you know, the size of a good-sized cooler, because they're portable lab ones that have to be in a lab. The bigger ones are better because they have their own generator and everything else inside of them. But you can get them, they're not that expensive, and they can make like you're saying, you're running, you know, you want to do an experiment or do something else. Dry ice is a pain in the ass. You can also buy your own dry ice maker and make dry ice. As long as you're using good material and you've got the setup, you can make your own dry ice and then save some money that way. So, I mean, you can make all this shit yourself. You don't have to take the most expensive route either. So.
Alright. I hope all you guys may have learned something from this half-hour discussion. I just want to say thanks to every single one of you up here for dedicating your time to come up here and speaking your mind. You know, it takes a lot of heart to do that. We are all definitely experts at what we do. I love you all. Safe travels home. It's almost 4:20. Let's go see Method Red perform and enjoy the rest of this historical day. Much love. Salute.
Put your peace signs up, man. Put them up, put them up. Smoke some, smoke some. Put them up, wave them side to side, wave them side to side, wave them side to side. Wave me. Hey yo, shit is wicked on the free street. Hey yo, shit is wicked on the free street. Wicked. All that shit is true. It's fire, it's the youth. It's fire, it's the food.
Yeah, check 1, 2, 2, 2. Yeah. Hey. Yeah. 2. Okay. We still got a little more volume on this one? Oh, because I was standing right next to it. Yeah.
Guys, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 420! Get it, Boston! Love seeing that smoke. Listen, I'm not going to take this microphone very long because we got to let the legendary DJ Dice get back on the turntables and tune up. You guys are in for one epic show. I needed to take a moment and thank everybody that's standing on this stage. Because this event you're been enjoying for the last 2 days, does not happen without each and every one of them. Starting with MassCann, who has been putting this on for 27 years. Thank you, MassCann, for fighting all these years for all of us. And then this year, MassCann let us come in, that being Social High and Boston Smoke Shop, and put some serious sponsorship money into this event so that we could bring you somebody like Method Man and Redman. And of course, we couldn't do that on our own, so we called nobody else but the Queen of Hip Hop, Lisa Finellen. So I want everybody to remember the real reason we are all here. Come November, there's one question. One question. Question number 4 is on the ballot. What are we going to vote? I didn't hear enough of you say it. What are we going to vote? You're damn right. So everybody, yes, so get through the chants. My voice is tracking too much. So thank you, everybody. We're going to let DJ Dice get back to get tuned up. Method Man and Redman will be with you shortly.
I even start the show, I'm gonna play a couple of joints because I want to see the real hip hop people that love hip hop. All right?
Your hands, everybody. If you clap your hands, everybody.
Yeah, hear the record. Let me see those hands.
Hands, everybody. If you clap your hands, everybody. If you up in this motherfucker. So raise the weed up there. Raise that shit up, nigga.
Everybody just scream!
I got jet skis that ride over land. Tipsy young buck had fire in my hands when I was bumping.
I said, okay.
I got gin and the OJ. Rock Friday, next Friday, OJ. Hit the West Coast, 6-4 on trade. Deck the Bombay, 6-4 okay. I don't play fair. Niggas can't see me. This why niggas do what I do, baby. One show, niggas in the flow when I kick in the door, waving the 4-4-4 show. Uncle Snoop, where's the crew? Cause I keep a whole fighting like New York and hoops. So strap up your boots, move around, pick it up like engine number 9. Okay, check what's good. It ain't hard to tell how.
Rep my hood.
You a piece like me?
Rep your hood.
Sign the check when I write check. 1, 2.
West Coast
Niggas up,
getting it started. Down South
niggas up,
getting it started.
Yo, East Coast niggas up,
getting it started.
But when we in the house shit,
Get retarded.
when we in the house shit,
Get retarded.
when we in the house shit, we came to finish with y'all the science.
Everybody just scream! Track black talent in the pop bomb shit. We go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Please the actions out.
Turn right to the
Yo, 7, 5, 3, 2, 1. Let the cow come and get you.
Play my position. I think on this one. All the sick one fiction. Put it in your city. Look a leap in the engine.
And you broke legs.
Now I'm tripping on MC.
We say,
Shut the ricochet.
start trouble, bust bubble.
Hit the wicked ways.
Gotta love me.
G.O.D.
You wanna bump me?
Look,
But fuck ugly.
tap your jaw from a push buggy.
Sonny who?
Got you seeing in your last one.
Sonny who?
You fucking punk, get a speed bump.
Coming through.
Single shot, make your meat look.
Respect rule. Yeah. Well, I'ma put it to the ground.
That's
There
right.
you go.
Selfie stick ass
Now,
motherfuckers.
so this is what we're gonna do. I got this. Time for some action.
Boston, make some noise out there, man.
We're not done. We're not done. We're about to take y'all back. The beautiful people of Boston. All the motherfuckers that smoke with Redman and Method Man out there. We taking y'all back to the year 1994.
Yes, bitch.